Obviously I can't see myself. So yes, so thank you. So good morning, colleagues, and welcome to this really important webinar on mental health and well-being at South African higher education institutions. My name is Koo Parker, and I'm a coordinator with SADI. But I have a fairly long history with Siyaphumelela, having been involved with the project in Siyaphumelela 1 and Siyaphumelela 2 at Durban University of Technology. But now I'm assisting SADI, and I'm just so happy still to be involved with Siyaphumelela and seeing and hearing many familiar voices and seeing faces. So yeah, and so welcome also to the people whom I don't know. I think the mental health and well-being. I guess I can call it the people who are not really involved in the profession, right? And I myself would say I am not a mental health professional or expert. We weren't really aware, of the challenges and the problems until probably COVID. Okay, and so I think when COVID happened, within it became a lot more out there that mental health of both students and staff really was a challenge. So I think Sadie realized the importance of this, and so this was a bit of the history of the mental health work stream. But I'm going to let my colleague, Dr. Ephraim Mshlanga, speak about that. Next slide, please, Ephraim. So colleagues, we have a fairly long program today, and that is why we actually decided to begin at 8:30. So I know we'll still have colleagues joining us. I think we've already got about 3 or 4 of our presenters in the room. So welcome. And I think also, to the presenters who are presenting today, thank you so much. We know that this is an incredibly busy time for you. And likewise, the colleagues who are attending, it's a very busy time. And the fact that you have you're here says that you are actually prioritizing this really important topic. So thank you for being here. So as you can see, we have, this is just part of our program. We have a long program starting, quite early this morning. We'll begin with, we have colleagues from University of Witwatersrand and Western Cape. That's Ms. Anne Linsky and Dr. Letitia Permal, who are doing a joint presentation, just setting the context a little bit for us. And then I think, though, Letitia is in a meeting, so Anne will be presenting. And then we're then going to go on to our individual institutions who are presenting. And today we actually have 8 institutions presenting, so we are actually quite happy about that. We'll stop for a coffee break at around 10:25 for about 10 or 15 minutes. And then we will continue with the rest of the program. Next slide, please, Ephraim.
It's coming.
Okay, thank you.
It gets, I don't know why my slides get stuck sometimes, but
okay, no, not a problem. Thanks, Ephraim.
Right, there we go.
Thank you. And so the program will then continue. We have 3 more institutions presenting after the tea break. We will then go into a discussion, Q&A. We might have some breakaways there. And then at the end, in the last 10 minutes or so, just a thank you and a way forward in terms of the mental health work stream and some of the work that's still to come. So a long program. We hope that it's going to be exciting. We hope that it's going to be a great sharing and learning experience as well. Certainly, I think from my side, I'm really looking forward to learning what institutions are doing. And then just very briefly, I just want to talk a little bit about the structure of the program. So some of you might have noticed that, we have these little sort of subheadings, knowing, doing, transforming. And this is actually aligned to the Siyaphumelela Theory of Change. Let's have the next slide, please, Ephraim. Oh, I beg your pardon. Is it the aims before that? Okay, sorry. A little bit of background for people who are not familiar with Siyaphumelela. So Siyaphumelela project is currently in its 3rd phase in South Africa. So it's Siyaphumelela 3.0. But Siyaphumelela goes way back to 2016, 2015, 2016. And of course, this is the project that's funded by the Kresge Foundation in the United States. And Siyaphumelela has several aims. So as you can see, it's a collaborative partnership. It's a project that aims to promote equity at South African higher education institutions. And it does this primarily or predominantly by actually encouraging and fostering a more student-centered culture. Not to say that institutions are not student-centered, but this is really one of the foundations of the Siyaphumelela project. This then is the bedrock really for improving student success. Siyaphumelela also has a very big focus on data. And so in terms of the project, success rates are measured in terms of students coming back to university to continue their studies. That's retention. We look at course success rates. We look at throughput rates, which are really students being able to complete their studies in the minimum time. We know this is it's a challenge, it's a problem because education is expensive. And so, of course, for many of our students, if they do not progress and get through minimum time, they risk losing NSFAS and other funding. So the targets are important. These are indicators, and Siyaphumelela does actually monitor and track them. And then, of course, aligned to these academic indicators would be things like eliminating differences, and that's on the equity side based on race, gender, socioeconomic status, and so on. Capacity to use data. So I've mentioned data. Siyaphumelela also provides a lot of support to institutions in terms of building their capacity to collect and use student data because we feel interventions, any type of intervention, whether it's academic or non-academic, it needs to be based on evidence. Whether this is qualitative or quantitative data, the point is it should be evidence informed. And I think the same thing applies, of course, to mental health interventions as well, supporting our staff and our students in terms of their mental health needs. And then, as you can see, the sharing is a big part. And of course, today's webinar is we're going to be sharing and learning together, consolidating and sharing good student success practices, and then embedding the student voice in student success initiatives. So these are the aims of the Siyaphumelela project. Thanks, Ephraim. Here we go. Okay, so the program was aligned to the Siyaphumelela Theory of Change, and this theory of change, as you can see, we're using the pyramid as an example to show a symbol, and it's based on 3 layers, and that is knowing, doing, and transforming. So the knowing is the foundation, and this is now linked to things like knowing, in terms of the data, the evidence. So what are the challenges facing student success? What is the data that's important? What do we know in terms of the factors impacting student success, academic and non-academic? And then the doing. So what are the interventions that institutions are actually implementing, right, based on the knowing, based on the evidence to actually improve student success? And then ultimately at the top, using the knowing and the doing, what changes are we bringing about? How are we transforming our higher education institutions so that our students are actually succeeding? So that really is a nutshell. There's a lot more to the theory of change, colleagues, but I just thought it might be nice for those of you who haven't seen or heard this before, just to give a very brief introduction. So what we decided to do today was that to align our program to the knowing, the doing, and the transforming. And so the knowing then, in terms of the program, we were going to have the University of Western Cape and the Witwatersrand talking a little bit about some of what we know. What do we know in terms of mental health challenges at higher education institutions? The second part then would be what are institutions doing, whether it's in terms of frameworks or policies or strategies or actual interventions. So we have some institutions who will talk about, deep dive into a particular intervention that they are implementing to support their students or their staff. And then ultimately, in terms of transformation, what are we hoping to see? So just a very quick introduction. And as I said, really the focus today is on the presenters and the institutions and sharing what they are doing to support their staff and students. Thank you, and it'll be over to Ephraim.
Thank you, Koo, and good morning, everyone. Just to give you some brief background of the mental health workstream, and as some of you will know, in Siyaphumelela, we have several work streams that try to push the different aspects that we consider to be important in terms of student support at institutions. So one of them is the mental health work stream. And yeah, mental health and well-being is important for both students and staff in our institutions if we are to achieve holistic student success. And like what Sue said, we realized that this was the issue of mental health was embedding progress amongst a lot of our students in many of our institutions. And therefore, there was need for us to pay particular attention through a work stream dedicated to this area at systemic level. And this work stream was launched in 2020, and the idea was to try and draw on available data and come up with a mental health framework that would be implemented at systemic level. And that was an attempt then to try and support our institutions to implement effective mental health innovations. So in 2021, with representatives from the University of the Western Cape and from WITS, who were invited to co-lead initiatives in this particular work stream. But we also had other institutions like Nelson Mandela, like UCT, DUT, UFS, and UKZN. And of late, I think we've had quite a lot of interest from many other institutions to join this particular work stream. And yeah, the primary objective of the mental health workstream is to share good practice in promoting student success. And like I said, it is only possible to promote student success if we create a comprehensive, effective national mental health framework that guides people in implementing effective interventions that support both students and staff. So we've had a series of meetings, of webinars and presentations and workshops between 2021 and 2024. And we've engaged with various stakeholders, including those that are outside the Siyaphumelela initiative, like Higher Health, for instance, in order to draw on some of the interventions that are happening at national level, but being implemented by different stakeholders, different from Siyaphumelela stakeholders. And so the idea was to try and have a framework that cuts across the different stakeholders, and that cuts across mental health, social justice, and other related challenges that are being faced in our institutions. And we thought by bringing together different stakeholders and pull ideas together and draw up a comprehensive framework, we would be in a position to come up with sound interventions that can be of help in institutions. And so our hope is that through this particular work stream, we will be able to make a difference in terms of mental health support in institutions. Without wasting much time, let me give the floor to our colleagues from Anne and Lynn from Letitia from UWC. I understand Letitia might not be able to participate, but Anne will be able to present on behalf of her colleague. And like what Kru said, they are focusing primarily on the first pillar of our theory of change, which is the knowing pillar. And their topic is crafting a comprehensive mental health framework for South African higher education. Over to you, Anne.
Thanks very much, Ephraim and Kru. Please give me a moment, and then I'd like to greet colleagues. I'm just trying to... Can you take down your presentation, Ephraim? I'm not sure how to otherwise share my screen.
Should I stop sharing?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I can just pull up mine.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I get a moment, colleagues? I'm just trying to see how to share the screen here. I'm not sure which I have it, but it doesn't want to.
But you can see the sharing button.
Yeah, it's just not showing my
The other option, you can quickly send it to me and I can do the sharing from here.
sorry, let me just quickly see.
Yeah, there it is. Thank
Got
you.
it?
Yes, we can see it. You
I
can put
just
it in
want,
the slideshow mode.
yeah.
Great. We can see your slides now. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. Thanks again, Ephraim and Koo, and good morning, colleagues. Apologies for the delay. I will be presenting crafting a comprehensive mental health framework for SA higher education on behalf of my co-lead, Dr. Letitia Permel from UWC. It will really be to share with you in a kind of an overview format the journey we've been on since around 2021. As Koo had mentioned, and Ephraim, the work stream was established 2020, and then 2021, we came on board. Siyaphumelela recognized the necessity for an integrated framework that looks at mental health and well-being in the university life of students and staff as critical to co-creating a culture of wellness and care. And these, of course, are the cornerstones on which student success is based. So in terms of more of the rationale, the co-development of this framework has been informed by empirical data and qualitative thematic analysis of national engagements. And this has been from high educational webinars, as Ephraim mentioned, seminars, conferences. What's really important for us is that there be, and Koo mentioned the importance of collaboration earlier, the continued collaborative inputs are absolutely necessary in order to explore how best to integrate the data that correlates mental health and student success. That's really important. And that the building of this framework is an iterative and organic process, and that it be co-constructed, as mentioned earlier, with all committed stakeholders. So as you can see on the screen, there's highlighted areas of the process which began in 2021 to 2024 of the key events there. In terms of the context, so in co-constructing the National Mental Health Framework, it has really been important to consider and understand the contextual factors. So in the first place, intersectionality of race, gender, culture, socioeconomic status, and identity with mental health. Also, the importance of the effects of transgenerational trauma, importance to honor Indigenous knowledge systems and understand who our students are and the impact of digital transformation on their relationality, their resilience, and their coping. Also, to understand that we may be experiencing the cumulative effect of years of primary and secondary trauma, which of course affects the way our students show up. So as mental health practitioners, our role has also increasingly included social justice advocacy. Colleagues, changing global and psychosocial pressures exacerbate pre-existing mental health conditions. And this is evident from the changing prevalence of mental health globally, nationally, and of course in higher education. where prevalence is higher than in the general population. An example, there is a recent study that's been done by Blows and Isaacs in 2022 and shows that 62.7% of students reported the use of substances after entry university, with alcohol consumption being over 80%, cannabis over 40%, and cocaine over 5%. And so it just leads to the question as to what extent is the higher education context contributing or influencing student mental health and wellness. The mental health continuum is important to stop here for a moment before we go further to high impact practices, because it emphasizes that mental health is more than just the absence of illness. It includes the presence of positive attributes such as resilience, well-being, and the ability to manage stress. This continuum recognizes that students can experience a range of mental health states, thriving, struggling, and these states can change, and they do over time. The implication is that with this in mind, institutions can implement proactive measures, and that understanding of this continuum normalizes the experience of fluctuating mental health, reducing stigma and making it easier for students to seek help. It also fosters a positive campus environment, integrates mental health into daily life, and empowers students by providing them with the tools that they and resources that they may need to manage their mental health proactively. So that's ideally. From here on, colleagues, I'm going to share with you what we have put together with regards to the kind of emphasized holistic high impact practices. So in informing the development of the mental health framework, all the high impact practices that we're going to be outlining that follow here in the slides to follow, these have all been based on the inputs of participants from a range of higher education institutions, respective webinars, workshops, and conferences. The principles that underpin the holistic high impact practices have to take into account the unique cultural and contextual realities, as well as the changing role of mental health professionals, as mentioned before, as advocates for social change and social justice, and to recognize the diverse needs of students across the sector. The importance here, in terms of a high impact practice, is that of capacity building of first responders, that would be including staff and student leaders and others. And this is really, really critical. And the importance of the capacity building is, of course, to empower the system for prevention and promotion. And this encourages buy-in from academics to play a role as advocates for mental health. Collaboration, this is a critical one with internal and external stakeholders, like, for example, rape crisis community clinics, SADC, and other counselling associations, in order to build capacity and augment the services which remain essential. Colleagues, we've been talking about high impact practices, but it's also important, of course, to mention the principles on which many of these are based, and that is, in fact, they're all based. And that would include ethical data management, the principle of Ubuntu, that interconnectedness, that sense of belonging. And of course, as mentioned, the principle of social justice, and of course, of cultural competence. So this slide that you see provides an overview of holistic high impact mental health practices, which include the importance of a few areas. One of being stewardship as a shared endeavor of collaborations and partnerships within intentional practices, such as building trusted relationships through dialogue and shaping new narratives to create a sense of belonging. A huge issue for many students that there isn't a sense of belonging. Further high impact practices include prevention, regarding substance abuse, provision of crisis intervention services, and a range of really impactful individual and group work practices. And these are based on the premise that addressing basic needs and security, as you can see in the middle, are critical to well-being and success. Prevention and promotion, really critical areas to focus on. And this is toward fostering a supportive, caring community that enhances a sense of belonging. But critically, these are areas in terms of looking at prevention and promotion, instead of just focusing on the reaction to issues of mental health, the increasing demand for services as increasing and the demanding more and more mental health professionals. The essential focus is most definitely toward prevention so that it becomes a community focal area. It is not just the responsibility of the counseling center. This does become a systemic and institutional imperative. So prevention and promotion sits in that space. Part of this is to empower students in a variety of ways, as well as to develop mental health literacy, advocacy, and to promote destigmatization. Also, to leverage the student voice, absolutely critical, and that is inclusive of not just student leadership, but general student voices, different cohorts, peer mentors, peer advocates, ambassadors. So the critical importance there is in terms of fostering a supportive community to amplify the student voice. Other factors as part of prevention and promotion include leveraging technology, and that is including predictive analytics, really critical to use data to identify at-risk students early. I think many of our institutions are busy with this and have been for a while. Also the utilization of apps and AI, existing learning management systems, and of course, the continuous evaluation and feedback to inform improvements in practices, as well as, of course, inclusivity and accessibility. So, colleagues, we get to some preliminary recommendations. And these include the fact that a whole university approach to mental health and well-being is essential. That driving the mental health agenda from a senior executive management level, in addition to multidisciplinary internal collaborations and partnerships, are critical to co-develop a more caring and supportive institutional culture of holistic well-being, which includes students and staff. And just to flag, though, that the gaps in psychiatric support need to be addressed with external partners. For example, it is recommended that primary healthcare facilities on campuses do provide comprehensive mental health services, and this could be done in collaboration and partnership with external stakeholders such as Department of Health and Social Development. Also flagging this is the importance of empirical data, which helps understand the link between student mental health and student success, and of course can assist with strategic planning and informing of preventative and supportive interventions. And so finally, colleagues, higher education should leverage the power of education. And this is that fosters inclusion, belonging, transformational growth, and meaning-making for economic mobility, societal change, and communities that care. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne, for providing that overview for us. I think while Hanli is preparing to share her presentation, I think you did provide a fantastic overview, actually, of the work that the mental health workstream has done. Also, I think the principles and the objectives, for the framework. Colleagues, please, I do see a few comments and questions in the chat. We will address them later on. And yeah, so without further ado, can we hand over to University of Pretoria and Dr. Hanli Kirkcaldy.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me, and please let us know if there's any technical difficulties. Just want to show my face to say I'm not a robot, and then I'm going to put video off just to make sure that the feed is good. I'm going to talk about the doing part. I think Anne explained very clearly what the ideas should be behind our interventions with students. And I'm going to let you know what we do at the University of Pretoria. I'm so very excited about today because it actually gives us an opportunity to do things that we don't usually do, and that is benchmark and share ideas. And I hope really that we can help each other in this very important endeavor. Everybody, as we know, is a work in progress. We are opening up channels, and some we have to close down depending on our circumstance. But let me explain to you how we have tried to implement what Anne and colleagues have been trying to explain to us in the last couple of years. So my presentation is linking services to needs, and that is how we try to ensure access to mental health platforms. Just please tell me if my presentation is moving on.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So that is the outline of the presentation, the knowing, doing, transforming, and you will see. I'm just going to talk, it's about 8 or 9 slides. I've also pressed my stopwatch, so I have got about 15 minutes, and after that, I will be quiet. All right, so our dilemma is clearly how to potentially reach all students in a sensible and ethical way. I don't know about you, but in our world, we have about, maybe if we count all our counselors and students, we have about 20 people that must reach, in the case of University of Pretoria, potentially 24,000 undergrads and a total of about 55,000 students. So you can see that is a dilemma. And how can we potentially reach all students in a sensible and ethical way? So what we have now, I suppose, all come to realize, and that is what Anne's slides have showed so clearly, is that it cannot be business as usual. You know, we cannot let students come into this waiting room, request a service, and there would be a person available, and they can spend an hour and do an assessment and maybe make a follow-up in a couple of days, and so on and so forth, until everybody feels that all needs have been satisfied. That is a fantastic model for a society that has ample resources and where there's no pressure on the services. So as we've heard from Anne, there's a social political background to our higher education system. There's, as she has very clearly stated, there's the massification, there is the NSFAS, the fees must fall, COVID, the energy crisis, the safety and security issues. All of that is that is the field we play on. The economics in higher education, I'm sure all of us can nod in agreement that, we are forever writing proposals for extra money. I don't know how much you get, but we have to make it work. We work with ethics. We can't just do what we like when we like. We have to keep certain principles in mind. Then there's the generation that we serve, the students' needs and wants. As Anne has also indicated, the students are, of course, a digital generation, and they have specific needs. We have staff capacity issues, and then the university has strategic goals, which they want to reach. So we have to work within that playing field. So at the school, as we call ourselves, Student Counselling Unit, we had to ask, what is access for us? And if you know the University of Pretoria, we have the counselling unit within the Department of Student Affairs. But in that department, there's also FLY at UP, which they are part of this Siyaphumelela group that has to do with learning success. And there's also a EWP, which has to do with staff wellness. So we focus merely and only on the mental health of the 55,000 students. That is our mandate. So access for us to our small unit for the bigger group was simplifying the paths to care and making it straightforward and user-friendly for this generation. So I think what is important to think about is what drives the change? Which principles do we have to keep in mind? And that little apple you see there has to do with all the things that I think students usually, that is actually from data we gathered, you know, what the word cloud that we organized in a survey. So students said they have pressures, relationship issues, workload, don't know what their priorities are, family, what about the future? They feel lonely, the deadlines, the finances. So I'm sure you have exactly the same. So the principles in biomedical ethics that we have to follow is those that I'm sure you know. Beneficence, in other words, try to bring good to the most people. You can't just benefit one person, you must try to do good to more people. Then the justice, who does get services, who can't get services, what services, and of course trying to open the doors to more people in order to get more, to reach more services. And then of course, while we are doing it, not to do any harm and treat everybody with dignity, while also trying to get students to understand that they have agency and autonomy, and trying to also have a transparent service. I'm sure you can understand that biomedical ethics is a pie in the sky. Sometimes we have to really try to balance all these principles with all the demands of our daily lives. And we had also had to think in the last couple of years, which values are we chasing? You know, what do we want to achieve? We want to be effective. We, of course, want to be efficient. We want to be relevant to the student population. We want to be responsive, accessible, as I mentioned, but we also want to be able to do this for a long time, sustainable, and therefore we have to set some priorities. So all of this thinking and strategic planning ended up with us thinking of a model that we follow that enables us to bring it all together. And as Anne has mentioned, we also had to develop policy frameworks. So we have been working very hard on a mental health policy that will include, and is now at Senate level, the framework that will include how we deal with, you know, mental health emergencies, how we deal with regular referrals, what sort of preemptive interventions we do, how the whole university approach will be implemented within the university, how we deal with a more common problem day by day, which is leave of absence and excluded students and readmitted students, which is based on perhaps mental health difficulties they experienced. In other words, to ensure the access and equity in that regard. And then, of course, all the others in residences and, you know, trying to get this whole idea that the whole university approach, faculties and residences, are I suppose the word I'm looking for would be supporters of mental health in the whole university approach. We do follow a wellness and resilience philosophy underneath, so that students are made aware that those are the principles on which we hopefully can create an environment for success for them. And then we try to leverage technological interventions and optimize our processes use strategic partnership, and community engagement from the students and staff, development and training. In other words, we try to have the sort of emotional first responder in every student organization, that is from leadership structures, house structures, the societies, the class reps. We do a little training session with all of those. And for those that are more interested, we have a peer volunteer program that students who are that way minded can be part of the school in a more permanent way. We try to work across silos, in other words, and try to diversify our offerings. And all of that brought us to, I think I've now left out one or two here. Yeah, there we go. That brings us to linking the student need to the service. So this is our philosophy. And I think that if you listen to what I've said now, unfortunately, the slide deck jumped a little bit to questions. So the previous one here is that one, enabling, and then what we currently do is this. So what we do is we have tried to create a pyramid where we can slide up and down the pyramid according to the student need. So we try for the approach that most students would need mental health content, self-help material, wellness, resilience content. And for that, we leverage the technology quite a bit. Technology is also used in all the other levels. It's not that there's no technology there. For instance, a workshop can be a webinar, etc. But the mental health content and the self-help material, we have created podcasts, the web page content, social media postings on wellness and resilience, and how students should be proactive. So that whole philosophy of trying to create a proactive approach is a big part of what we try to do, that students don't necessarily need us, but can read up on or listen to a podcast on how to deal with a family emergency, or how to deal with relationship breakup, or how to communicate better, or how to deal with a difficult lecturer. Sorry for the lecturers in the room. But so a lot of student type content, things that would be relevant, adjustment, boundaries, borders, etc. And then we use the peers, as I said, a lot, as first responders in the residences, in the faculties, faculty houses, leadership structures, class reps, and so on. And we also, have peer advisors and mentors that is part of other structures, such as the SRC, or part of the leadership in, for instance, society. So the peer-to-peer support networks is there to kind of create an ear and point the way if students need us. They are not, mini counselors. They certainly don't do anything along those lines. In the unit, we use student peers to welcome people, to show them how to make an appointment, to direct them to the right desk or office of another unit if that is what they need. We also use those students if there's a crisis in a residence, for instance, if there was and I know we all wish this never happened, but if there was, something like an attempted suicide, etc., then peers would be immediately available and would be able to lend an ear and point the way when we are available the next morning, or to connect to emergency services together with whoever is involved in the faculty or the residence. Because, of course, we are not in the residence or in the faculty when it happens, late at night. We also then, as you can see, the bottom three layers is preventative, but it's also more on a community level. So we also leverage community psychology theory quite a bit, where we try to use compassionate and caring people to help students to get to the right support, but also do a lot of preventative, informational, psychoeducational work. And then brief counseling. please excuse me. Brief counseling would then be with, for instance, our registered counselors. And this is on a level of skill development. Someone just wants to know how to calm myself down before a test. So short-term interventions, maybe 1 or 2 sessions, very skills-based, you know, how to communicate with my boyfriend about a difficult subject. Is it okay if I still grieve for my mum who died 6 months ago? What is grief about? So again, lots of information, and a supportive environment. We also use SADAG in this regard, where students can, we of course have the 24-hour care line. SADAG is very, very supportive there. They're also very supportive to our peers. A peer can call SADAG and make, you know, a counselor available on the phone if they're a little bit out of their depth, if it's after hours. So the brief counseling, the counseling on a counselor level is happening at that level. And then there is the psychology team for therapy and or assessments. And we don't have many psychologists and interns, you know, it changes every year, but we do try to there use evidence-based practices, short-term interventions, and outcomes-based, so that, again, it's not business as usual. We try to make sure that whatever someone comes from, if it's depression or anxiety, PTSD, trauma, any of that is treated in a way that is according to the latest scientific interventions. If that is a longer term intervention, we do refer. There you see the top little square triangle. We do refer out because we cannot, of course, carry a student for months on end in therapy, because there's always someone at the door. As it is a free service, we have to create turnaround. And that, I think, is the balance of the issue, is the economics of, you know, making it work, reaching a lot of people, but in a just and equitable way, while at the same time dealing with the pressure of those that is at the door and need the service. So the implications for practice is that we employ evidence-based and standardized practices. We monitor outcomes on a regular basis to see what works and what doesn't. We change it. Every 6 months, we look at our interventions and see if it really is a worthwhile intervention on that pyramid. We do collect data and statistics on the use of our services and if students find it useful. There's continuous staff orientation. I don't think that psychologists and registered counselors are taught really the pressures of the real world when it comes to service delivery. So we need to reorientate our staff continuously in terms of a proactive approach, building in resilience interventions in their therapy, making sure that students don't become dependent on them. We offer the least intrusive interventions first, you know, whether that is the content at the bottom or the webinar or the short-term interventions by a counselor, and then highly intensive interventions when needed. We do encourage ongoing baseline wellness, as I said, and there's a communal focus on resilience within the faculties and residences. And I must just say here that that doesn't mean we talk about our problems in faculties and residences. We talk about coping. I think coping theory is very much underestimated, and there's a lot we can teach, well, not really just students, but a wider community about how we approach a problem and how we really cope proactively. And then we, of course, all the support services at UP, we try to link finance and, you know, student accommodation and all the other academic support services for inter-referral. And then we do hope that it is a transforming intervention, that we ensure improved client experience and service delivery, advance equity and inclusion for all students with mental health and learning difficulties, disseminate and guide with our protocols to manage students, ensure campus-wide collaboration, leverage digital, online, and artificial intelligence technologies, and we try to monitor our processes continuously. I think it is just important to support what Anne said about a policy or a framework. If you have that in hand, and go for the highest one, go for a policy if you can, because policies are enforceable in university structures. Then, you at least when there is someone that doesn't cooperate, or there's a resident that doesn't understand why you do what you do, or why you suggest what you do, then at least you have the policy backing you. And we cannot separate success from wellness. I think wellness is at the bottom of all of that. And that is then my final slide. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hanli. I mean, wow, I think you covered, yes, the entire theory of change pyramid, the knowing, the doing, and the transforming. Colleagues, I think I have posted in the chat earlier to can you please hold back? Please feel free to share your questions in the chat, but I think we'll address them at the end after all the presenters have shared, what they are doing at their institutions. And yeah, Hanli, I think I'm also particularly interested in the work where you talked about your chatbots and so on. So I think there'll be some really good discussion towards the end. So thank you so much for that. I think next on the program, we've got Stellenbosch, Dr. Elmine Sinclair and Dr. Christina Hewitt. And I think Elmine will be presenting on behalf of the two of them. Elmine, over to you.
Thank you, Koo and colleagues. I am not used to working with Zoom, so let me try to share and just let me know if you can see what I'm sharing. Let's see. So I've shared on my side. Can you see it?
Yes, I can see it. Go into your
Presenter
presentation.
mode. Let me just go there. Is the slideshow showing?
Yes, perfect.
Oh, it's easier than what I thought. So thank you very much, colleagues, for this opportunity. So I'm also going to speak towards the doing part, more towards that. And the title of the presentation is Mental Wellness Support for Stellenbosch University Students through a Self-Help Web Application. Christina Harvard can unfortunately not join our presentation today, but she was and still is our project coordinator and also contributed immensely to this project and really helped to make this a reality. So I just wanted to acknowledge her role in this process. So in today's demanding academic environment, mental well-being is just as vital as academic success, that we know. However, many students struggle to access the right support when they need it most. At Stellenbosch University, a self-help web app was developed to make mental health resources accessible on a digital platform. So I'm going to highlight at this stage already that I'm specific web application, and later on in the presentation, I will explain why we decided on using a web application and not a cell phone application or a chatbot at this stage of the journey. So this web app then aims to provide the first level of support during the period between when a student becomes aware of a mental health need and before they can schedule a meeting or an appointment at the Center for Student Counseling and Development. It empowers the students to find the help they need, understand the available services, and access them while destigmatizing the pursuit of mental wellness support. So in the rest of the presentation, I will provide an overview of the architecture of the web app, just a very basic one, because my understanding as a psychologist is very basic. Also information about the usage patterns of the users and how we use that to inform our services. And to plan and implement interventions that happen timelessly according to the needs of our students. And I will also give some feedback about our experiences thus far. Also just note that we rolled the web application out in May last year, just almost simultaneously with the June exams, the first semester exams. That's not looking back now, I don't think that's the best time to do it, because your marketing campaigns do not really hit the right communities. Students are busy studying. So we actually had to go back and do a lot more marketing. And hopefully now, with this new cohort of first years coming in, we will see a better uptake on the use of the web application. So there has already been a lot of learning on our side. So we know that our students are digital natives. It's a term coined by the American writer and technologist Mark Prensky. And if we look at his work, he says digital natives are individuals that's born into the information technology era, growing up immersed in technology rather than having to adapt to it later in life. And as digital natives, our students access the information differently and share content seamlessly. It's different from how I grew up and how a lot of the people working at the center grew up. So we really had to drill down into what works for our students. The student voice was and still is extremely important in terms of the development and the success of this web application. So the students' constant engagement, or let's say the digital natives, constant engagement with the technology and the internet shapes distinct help-seeking behaviors. It differs from how we, my generation, used to seek help. And it's strongly influenced by their familiarity with digital tools and platforms. And to us, this in turn redefines how higher education institutions communicate with students and provide effective support. So with the web app, we tapped into that. We tried to bring the service in a different way to our students so that they can access the services that the center provide in a different way. So at Stellenbosch University, we developed this self-help web app to make mental health resources accessible on a digital platform. This web app aims to provide the first level of support during the period between when a student becomes aware of a mental health need and before they can then schedule a meeting at the center for support. It empowers students to find the help they need, to understand the available services, and to access them while destigmatizing the pursuit of mental wellness support. So in the rest of the presentation, I will show you a little bit more about that. Sorry. Okay, so the objectives. So when we started to develop the web app, we said that it must give students access to even 3 o'clock in the morning. We also said that it must reduce the waiting time between when they identify the need and when they can actually make contact with us at the center. So one of the primary objectives was to reduce the waiting time, and then a second objective was to empower students to seek in the process of seeking help. What we realized is that many students do not really know how to seek help. So with the web app, we also wanted to empower them with that whole process. So we understand that students are often reluctant to seek timely help for mental health issues. The web app provides a user-friendly platform where students can quickly find and access mental health resources. It also promotes self-help and encourages proactive mental wellness management. So the web app, we made sure that it is available in all 3 official languages of the university. We also made sure that the students who make use of the web app stays anonymous. So we cannot from our side and in the background of the web app see who is using the service, because for us, it's just to connect students with our services. That's the main objective that we have with this web application. Also, it's only open to students from Stellenbosch University, students who are registered, so that we can block all these bots and all of and other users from outside the university of using the application. It serves as a centralized resource hub, which provides a comprehensive collection of available mental health resources, including articles, videos, and self-help guides. And it also provides access to sign-up sheets for the group sessions of the center, for our workshops, and also contact details and automated emails to support our services. So when a student when the self-help portal opens on the web app, this on the left-hand side is the first part. This is what they will see. So then a student can select there if they prefer to work in English, or if they prefer to work in Afrikaans, or if they prefer to work in isiXhosa. We also, to get the input from the students, we included a feedback tab there at the bottom. So that ensures that we do get, this is one way of getting the student voice and their input on the services that we provide here, because this is a project that's continuously developing. You will also see that at the top, there's a tab for videos included. Those videos specifically explains the different services that the center provides. So if, for example, an academic advisor or a mentor, a peer helper in the faculties or the residences also want to explain the services of the center, they can also access the web app. They can access these different tabs that's available, or they can access the videos and play the videos to show to the students what we have available at the center and how they can make use of the support. So on the next slide, what we did here, this was the second part of the development of the web application, as we sat together with all the counselors at the center. And we decided, so we followed a work session approach for the counselors, and we asked them to identify the main themes that students report with at the center. So what we anticipated is that if it's a student that's sitting there in a residence or in their private private place of residence, 3 o'clock in the morning, encountering certain challenges, that we can, with these different themes, tap into the typical challenges that they might be facing at that moment. So what the themes that we came up with were themes regarding adjustment to the university, academic performance, career guidance, mental health, finance and food security, job readiness, disability-related themes, physical health, and we also included a tab about their wellness scores. So I'm not going to open the web app now. I'm just concerned that we might have technical problems with that. So I'm going to rather use screenshots to explain to you, to show you how it works. Okay, let me rather go back. So what will happen is, if a student, for example, click on adjustment, let me try to do that. Maybe you can just guide me if you are seeing what you should be seeing. Let's see. There it is. There we are on the web app. Can you see it on your side?
Okay, I'm not seeing it, Elmi.
Okay, now then I'm going to skip that. Sorry. So that's Zoom that's blocking us here. No, I must get out of it. Let me just escape.
Okay, we're still seeing your presentation though.
Okay, let me close this. Sorry. So what will happen is, if a student, let me just close it. Oops. Can you still see my presentation?
We can.
Yes.
Okay. On my side now, I can see nothing. And is it moving on? I do this.
No, we're on the slide that describes the centralized resource hub.
Oh, so now I've made it difficult for myself. Let's stop sharing. Let me stop sharing and let me do it again. Rather do it. This, and let me share again. There it is. Okay. So if a student, for example, then click on adjustment to Stellenbosch University, we used a decision tree to anticipate questions that will guide the student through the process of support. And the general methodology that we followed was that if the student, for example, click on adjustment to SU, that it will give them access to self-help material, different self-help resources that will empower them to take at least one action right there at that specific moment that can slightly improve the situation that they are in. So a very practical example is, are you missing your family and friends at home? So then the decision tree will say either yes or no. So when they click on yes, it will say it's quite normal to miss your family and friends at home and when you need to adjust to a new environment. What you can do is to bring something from home that will remind you about the familiarity, the familiar environment, and put it in your room where you're living right now. But what you can also do is to join a student society, and then we link them up with a self-help app to a group where they can engage with other students. So that's the next level, that we immediately create opportunities for engagement with other students, because we know that student engagement impacts positively on mental health and on student success. But in the end, that was also the general rule that was followed. It must connect them to a service with an individual or with group sessions at the center. So what we did there on the next page, let me just go to the next slide. Now it's not moving. So now my technology, there it is that we connect them to the center by providing them with our email addresses at the center that they need to use to make an appointment. And it's an automatically generated email that already writes the message that our reception area will need to make the appointment. So here's an automatically generated email. Just an example to show you. If I clicked on it, that's why my signature is at the bottom. That's what the reception will see. That's what the student will see, but their names will be at the bottom, and that can then immediately be sent off to reception. Our reception area picks it up, they contact the student, and they make an appointment for an individual session. Or the students we also give the QR codes where they can use the online application form for individual sessions. We also try to connect them to work sessions or support groups that will address the specific needs. So again, it immediately takes them to the sign-up form to connect to those sessions. So we really, that's what just to take you back, through this self-help web app, we try to empower our students to get the right support at the right moment. Okay, so the next page. This I will also now not be able to show you, but this is just one of the videos. That's just to show you how the videos look. So we show them how the premises look, where we deliver the services, to create a sense of familiarity before they actually come to the center, so that they know what to expect. In one of the videos, we used our last year's psychology interns to simulate a group of students sitting and talking about how they use the different services at the center and what their experiences were. So that the idea there was to introduce the services, how to access it, but also to destigmatize the support that they when they access the support for mental health, for mental health challenges. So on the background of the web app, there's analytics running all the time. As I've already said, the app does not track individual students' behavior, but it does measure the traffic of the various pathways, showing which questions or which hits received the most attention by our users. And this enables us to better plan interventions and programs. We also have built in a short survey throughout the web app to get feedback from the users. So here is just an example of how the data analytics look at the background. This was one that I took last year, a screenshot I took last year, just after it opened, to show what's the typical routes of support that were accessed. And as expected, one can see that the hits on related to academic performance were quite high, and specific mental health topics were quite high. So that gives us an idea that around those dates, we need to have more interventions in the student communities that will address those specific topics. So that helps us to plan the time of our interventions better. That's just another shot where it's broken down, where the bigger themes are broken down into the finer details to use that also to plan for the future. So just some reflections on the development process. So the development of the web application forms part of Stellenbosch University's institutional student success strategy. We're currently busy with the development of Self-Help 2.0, so the second version of it. We decided to use a web application instead of a cell phone application because it is more cost effective. The moment that you use a self-help application, a cell phone application, you need to cater for the updates on Android, on Huawei phones, and on Apple devices all the time. Where if the application lies on on a web page, that's not necessary, and it's much easier to maintain and a lot more cost effective. We had to make sure that the application is accessible on both the desktop and on mobile devices, and that it's compatible with the screen readers for our students with disabilities. So throughout the development, it's important to get the input of our students. They are our primary users. It's initially, we only launched it for a small group of students and staff to collect their feedback and to make the necessary adjustments. And we continue to consult widely. We're still receiving feedback. We're still making adjustments. So the format that we're using just makes it easier to make these adjustments. So in terms of stakeholders that were involved, we use, sorry, now I'm confusing myself. So in terms of the marketing, we are depending really a lot on all the stakeholders to get the word out there. As you know, all these initiatives really work well or not well, depending on the success of the marketing. So we invested a lot in hard copy and electronic posters for that's distributed across all our campuses. The electronic copies are more cost effective to distribute and to get it out there, but we decided to also include hard copy posters. We also have videos that's broadcasted on the big screens all the time in our student centers. All the staff are encouraged to use a banner that advertises the self-help web app as part of their email signatures. We present it as part of all our work sessions, presentations to students and staff. Student leaders, mentors, tutors are, as part of the training, made aware of the web application. And it's also, they are encouraged to share it when they engage with other students and staff. It also, we often publish about it in our staff and student newsletters. We onboarded new lecturers this year at Prontak. That's our onboarding program. We issued them with fridge magnets with QR codes that gives access to the self-help app so that they can use it when they are connecting with students, but also that they can share it with their students. All our first years received stickers with QR codes in their welcoming packages when they arrived at the university at the beginning of this year, and we are still continuing to consult with more stakeholders to also get the word out there. What we also now do is we have it up as screensavers in the lecture hall, so while students are waiting for lectures to start, they will see a screensaver with the information of the web app and the idea is that they can access it while they're waiting for it. So what do we expect what's the outcomes that we expect?
Elmin, sorry to interrupt. Can you wrap up in, say, a minute at the most?
I'm basically at my second last slide.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Outcomes are anticipated. Firstly, we expect that the app will significantly reduce waiting lists because there's a lot of self-help and guidance provided to our students. It also directs the users to explore the self-help resources, to join work sessions, to join groups for support. Secondly, the app aims to empower students by increasing their engagement with mental health resources. Our users can improve their self-efficacy in managing their mental wellness, which is a positive step towards fostering a more resilient student body. Lastly, the app seeks to normalize seeking help. It contributes to making mental health support more visible and accessible for the wider student community. So some final remarks. Keeping the aforementioned expected outcomes in mind, our next steps involving leveraging the same methodology to create a comprehensive institutional self-help service for our students, where we include information from faculties and from other centers, where and based on the same methodology followed for the Center for Student Counseling. So, and the aim is that everybody now can contribute together to primarily help improve access to mental health resources, but also in the end, help build a flourishing and successful student community for Stellenbosch University. So that's my story. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you so much, Elmin, for sharing the interesting work that Stellenbosch are doing. And yeah, colleagues, please feel free to share your comments or your questions in the chat. We will address them later on. So now it's over to NMU, Nelson Mandela. We've got, I think, Lungsi and Moshlale presenting. Thank you, colleagues.
Good morning, colleagues. I'll be presenting on my own. Can you hear me?
Can hear you, Lungsi.
Yes. I'm saying I'll be presenting on my own because Moshlale it's quite a busy time for us at Mandela University.
No,
so it's not really easy for counselors to be out.
Sure. Thank you.
Am I audible enough?
You are.
Okay. I just want to. Yeah. Thank you. Lungsi Ntlokwana, the director of Mthonjeni Student Wellness. That's what we call our student counseling center. And we are a team of professionals, psychologists under the categories of clinical, we have counseling and the research psychologist. We also have registered counselors. We also have our intern psychologists that are with us, about 4 of them. And we also, since last year, we also have a social worker. So our approach is a standardized multi-campus approach. We have about 5 campuses that we operate a standardized approach. We have South, North, and 2nd Avenue that are based in Summerstrand. And then we have the Missionville campus that is within the community area where the medical schools is. And then we have the George campus, which is 400 kilometers away from PE, from Gqeberha, closer to Western Cape actually. So in terms of our positioning within the university, we fall under the LT Collab, which is Learning and Teaching Collaborative site. Then we have the Vice Chancellor, and under the Vice Chancellor, we have the DVC Learning and Teaching that we report to via the Dean of Learning and Teaching, and then it's Mthonjeni Student Wellness with all other departments. What is our main purpose? Our main purpose at Mthonjeni is to contribute towards student development and success. And how do we do that? In 2024, in fact, we crafted our vision 3 years back, and then we looked at it, we reviewed it, and then in 2023, we reviewed and for 2024. So it's the same vision that we've crafted in 2023 that we're using. We still find it relevant. And in terms of our vision, it is about how we respond to students. We strive to be a responsive psychological service for students, where we will be enhancing holistical individual well-being and mental health of our students, thus contributing to student success. So in terms of our mission, we hope to foster a supportive and an inclusive environment through accessible resources that are evidence-based and programs that are designed to promote wellness across wellness dimensions, particularly the mental, the physical, and the social dimension. And we strive to create a safe and welcoming environment for our students so that they can feel empowered to overcome the challenges they are experiencing, and also to enhance their resilience, and also to thrive academically. So we have various intervention strategies and approaches that we apply. And individual and group therapy is part of them, psychoeducational initiatives, webinars, and community outreach programs. We also have the peer-led support initiatives. During the 2024 strategic plan, we reviewed our goals to ensure that we align our vision and mission with the objectives of the university. And we reflected a lot in terms of how do we contribute to the institution's key performance indicators. And we also looked at the emerging trends and the needs of our students so that we can tailor our services based on the student needs, not what we think we can do. So part of our strategic priorities for the counseling unit is to have the student-centric approach. So we have a personalized student-centric approach. So we focus on students. And also we have an integrated approach. And consistent communication and engagement, I must say we're starting to improve on that, because we explore that whenever we communicate, sometimes students, they don't read memo. I was listening to Stellenbosch in terms of their marketing strategies, and I'm intrigued, and I think it's something that we will benchmark with them, you know, in terms of their marketing strategies, because from the audit plan, from the audit report, we were informed that most of the students, they don't really know where support services are, including the student counseling services. So we are improving on that. And we focus on continuous professional development so that we can be relevant in terms of the mental health intervention strategies. And also we focus on team wellness to avoid burnout so that we can be able to provide quality service. We are also a training unit. We offer internship program to our psychologists to be. And then also because of the budget cuts, one of the strategic priorities is to generate the third stream income. And also we collaborate with internal and external stakeholders as well to attend to mental health issues of our students. And also one of our strategic priorities that we really want to focus on is to be language and culture sensitive. And the important one is to evaluate impact. And I saw that from Stellenbosch. They also do that. How do we organize ourselves? We structured in 3 main focus areas, which is the psychology of well-being, the career construction and employability, then the psychology of learning, and then indirect services that are increasing our capacity and also improve in terms of our intervention strategies. We have the peer helpers that are increasing our capacity, and they facilitate webinars. We have also the digital engagement team that puts together our digital intervention strategies. We have a social worker because I'm sure we're all aware that student hunger, it's so prevalent in our spaces. So the social worker is playing a pivotal role in terms of identifying those students and also sourcing nutritional packs for those students. Then we have research and development, which runs our analytics, our statistics when we report to university management in terms of our stats and reach. And then the research psychologist is playing a pivotal role there. So this is just a slide to explain that we have the individual counseling approach, we have webinars, workshops, we have group counseling approach, we have pamphlets that we distribute. Most of them actually are electronic, but when we go to residents visits for workshops, and then that's where we distribute. And then also one of the strategies is the pre-uni and transition to university. So we promote equity and inclusion. That's where we provide career guidance and information sessions, career counseling, because it is important that students, they make informed decisions. And once they make those career informed decisions, that contributes to success, because once they grab any course that is available, they're bound to struggle, and that creates more anxiety. But once they make informed decisions, then they are bound to be successful. So we do those with prospective students before they can even join the university. But once they join the university, we assist them with transitioning to university. We have faculty link counselors that liaise with faculties on first-year success orientation schedule. So counselors will present various topics, including adjustments, and also raising awareness about Mthonjeni student wellness support and services. And also I've mentioned the adjustment to university. What is the role of the faculty link counselors? Is they aim to build relationships, and they serve as a link between the faculties and Mthonjeni. So our faculty link counselors will join either the faculty board meetings or the faculty learning and teaching committees, where they present the profile of the student for a specific faculty, and also just to share what the faculty expect. And when they do refer to us, our faculty link counselors become the liaison officer between us and the available resources with them. One of our strategic priorities is to increase access to our services. And we know that students are presenting with complexity, and also the severity of students with pure mental health is increasing every time and again. So for us, upholding that ongoing commitment to ensure that mental health is on top of the list of all what we do, and we tailor our programs to meet those diverse needs of different students. So we had to explore creative and dynamic ways to respond to these changing needs of the university. So we started with a triage system in response to this high demand. And our aim actually is to provide the timely assessment of students once they get to us. We started to have the online booking system, but we had about 58% no-shows because some students would just complete the online booking for a session, and then they don't honor because maybe the session will be booked after 3 days or after a week. And by the time they come, I think the problem is no longer top of the list. So we realized that with the online booking system, they're not really honoring the session. So now we've changed the process to this triage process so that we can provide a timely assessment of students. So they have to come to us for an intake session. I will take you through that. So for those emergency cases, we attend to and ensure that immediate access and eliminate wait times. And then, so emergency cases are attended to daily and are not expected to go through any booking system. Once the student arrives, calls for an emergency sessions, they are immediately assigned to the counselor. So revisiting our multi-purpose nature of this new practice model, it was designed to maximize the practice efficiency, to reduce waiting lists, and also to avoid the therapist burnout, and also to empower students to manage their own mental health so that we can reduce dependency, and also reserve the face-to-face counseling time for cases with greater complexity. So what are the key components? How is this model functioning? So we refer to counselors as case managers. The emphasis there is on active management of client load. And it's a short-term therapy model, which is about 4 to 6 sessions, and then the referral to off-campus community providers. But it also depends on the need of the student, because if they need more than 6 sessions, so it's the professional judgment of the psychologist that is conducting sessions with that student that will determine if the student needs more than 6 sessions. We direct them more to psychoeducational workshops and group counseling. And we contract for high-risk students mostly. So we direct students to appropriate services for those that would need, and also we determine the level of risk from that intake sessions. When we refer to counselors as case managers, they do the intake session, and then from that intake session, they will determine if the student is high, medium, or low risk. So for the low risk one, we refer them mostly to workshops whilst they're waiting for their individual sessions. So with the emergency cases, it's same day, we attend to that. I've already shared about this. And then when we refer to personal and student-centered approach, we do the needs assessment of our students to see, and that is informed by our stats actually as well. And with consistent communication and engagement, we make sure that students are aware of our services. And I've already mentioned that we have an integrated approach. When we speak about the psychology of well-being, what is our focus? It's mental health awareness campaigns and mental health interventions, including individual counseling, psychoeducational workshops, group counseling, community intervention, and anti-GBV, including substance use. So with the career construction and employability, we include the tier 1, that is our current students, that's our focus. And then tier 2 is prospective students, where we run career outreach programs, career guidance programs, so that by the time they come here, at least they are informed. And tier 3 will be community-based. The indirect services that I've already mentioned, digital engagement, research and development, and peer helping. And enhancing capacity through group interventions. We recognize that there's high demand for counseling services, and with limited counselor capacity, and also for the need for us to maximize the individual contact time with high-risk students, we made a strategic decision that we will do the residence workshops and group interventions, mostly like preventative programs before they come to us. And also, we also include peer helpers. Also, part of what we offer to students, it's art expression, which is an activity outside therapeutic space. We don't process that. Students, they just come. We open a space for them, and we conduct these every Fridays, where students can freely focus on self-care without being in a therapeutic and counseling space. And in terms of the peer-led supports, we increase capacity through peer helpers. We train them so that they can offer informal and formal interventions. They facilitate webinars, they provide career guidance, they co-facilitate with counselors during our dialogues. We have dialogues, we have the Masnokole sessions, and then through the Madiba radio talks, counselors, we have those weekly Madiba radio talks where we attend to different topics based on the need of students. And our services are confidential and free. We offer free services to our students. Okay. So in terms of just taking...
Sorry, Lungsi.
Sorry.
Can you wrap up in a minute or so? Sorry.
All right.
Thank you.
So we also, I've mentioned that we have the residence visits as well. So these are just the pictures of our counselors, because we're taking psychology out of offices through preventative programs, and then we reach out to students so that we can get where students are. This is just a picture of the Madiba radio talks, and we also have the digital team that focuses. We also have the YouTube and the TikTok channel. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lungsi. I think that was really interesting, and I found your art expression intervention. That's, I think, very, literally creative and actually very, very interesting. So I think when we have the discussion segment, I'm going to ask you some more about that. Thank you so much. Colleagues,
Thanks.
I think we're going to hand over now to Sishle Mbanjwa at Durban University of Technology. Sishle, I know you were in the room earlier.
Good morning, colleagues. Yes, definitely
Perfect.
I'm in the room. I'm just trying to upload the presentation. Just give me a second. Okay, colleagues, please let me know if you can see the presentation.
We can, Sishle.
We can see.
Okay, I don't know if it's from the first page where...
No, it's not.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out here. Sorry. I'm also quite used to the other platforms, not the Zoom platform. So let me try and see. I don't know if colleagues
That's
can
it.
now see. That's it. Okay.
You're there. Yeah.
Maybe just also to show that I'm not a robot. I will just briefly show my face to colleagues And thank you, colleagues, for the opportunity to share. I'm just going to close the, not sure now where to go and close this.
Bottom left, Sihle, video.
All right, there we go. Okay, colleagues, I think I'm just going to share from the DUT perspective. And I've titled this Enhancing DUT Students' Wellness Using Multiple Psychosocial Interventions. I think my starting point would be to highlight that whatever we, perhaps I'm going to start with highlighting what the guiding policies are, particularly everything that we actually do at the institution links up to our strategic framework, the institutional strategy, which is called Envision 2030. So those are some of the guiding policies and procedures. It's the Envision 2030. We also have what we call the DUT holistic the DUT Holistic Student Support Framework. And we also have the Student Health and Wellness Policy, which was recently approved, which had been revised from what it was before to actually make sure that it links up with the Envision 2030 DUT strategy, as well as the Holistic Student Support Framework. And we have a number of other procedures and protocols that we utilize in the center. Maybe to also indicate that we currently are called the Student Counseling and Health Unit, soon to be changed to be called the Student Health and Wellness Unit. But also, it's important, I think, to note that we are currently undergoing the restructuring with the view to ensure that our unit is aligned to the institutional vision. And also, those are some of the changes that we are going to be seeing. So maybe just to give a bit of a context in terms of the Envision 2030 strategy, it's guided by the perspectives of stewardship, systems and processes, sustainability, and society. And within that, we also have our values and principles, the values being transparency, honesty, integrity, respect, accountability, and also the principles of professionalism, compassion, fairness, commitment, and excellence. Perhaps just to outline briefly the holistic student support and success methodology. There's an acronym that I think I've put there to assist in remembering. It's CARE, which refers to the connectedness of all the multiple stakeholders within such as the academic departments. Sorry, colleagues, I just need to remove something here that is actually distracting my view. Sorry, colleagues. Okay. I don't know what I've done now. Sorry, just a second, colleagues. Can you still see my presentation though?
Yes, Sihle, we see the entire slide.
Okay. Let me just think my view here. I just see Cool Parker on my screen. And I can't quite follow up with the presentation.
Do you have the Zoom icon along the bottom? Sorry, Sihle, I'm also more familiar with Teams, but I think sometimes when you click on the Zoom icon, it opens up
the Zoom icon. Okay.
or it might be in your browser, whatever browser you are in.
Okay.
Usually it's a good idea just to close everything else down, even don't even minimize, just close every other app down and just have your presentation and the Zoom open. Ephraim,
Okay.
any suggestions, or anyone else who's more familiar with Zoom?
Sometimes there is a black Zoom window that appears and blocks your
Yes, that is the one I was trying to remove.
You can just
then I
drag
click.
it. It's possible to drag it right to the top or to the extreme right side.
Okay. Good.
Are you saying top right view, Ephraim?
Yes, I can see that. Yeah. And you can drag it just right to the top or to the extreme right, depending on which position would be convenient for him in terms of enabling him to see the entire slide.
I think right now what I'm seeing on my screen is Ephraim Shang. It's blocked the entire screen. So I'm trying to see how to remove that so that I can go back to I see now here this app. Oh God. So unsettling.
Are you able to move it?
Not yet.
Okay.
Do you want to try unsharing and resharing and see if that?
Maybe let me do that. Yeah.
Yes, just unshare and then reshare. You can see the unshare button. Yeah, okay.
There we go.
It's coming up. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that, colleagues. Right. So I was just indicating that we have the holistic student support and success a methodology, which the acronym I was explaining refers to the connectedness, where we look at collaborations with all the academic departments, support units, as well as the students. And one of the important aspects with regards to this holistic student support and success methodology is also that the student voice is quite critical as an agency for success, and also looking at ensuring that when we craft the programs to respond to student wellness, that we have relevant support programs that speaks to the needs of the students, as well as ensuring that the environment that we create and is enabling for individuals and also for social transformation. So, and under that holistic student support and success, we have 4 pillars that would foster the holistic student support and success, which is academic excellence, that looks at aspects like tutorials, academic support, where we also contribute as the student counseling and health units, amongst those programs. We also have the transition and adaptation, which looks at the first year student experience and the adapting to the institution. And currently we have the orientation going on. We also have the inclusion and well-being, that's where we mainly feature in terms of the psychosocial support, the inclusion as well of students with disabilities, and various other previously excluded groups of students. Also, the active participation and involvement in terms of the student-led conversation and all the other co-curricular activities, the GBV dialogues, for example. So those are some of the elements in which all of us across work together in planning programs and interventions to ensure that all those 4 pillars are strengthened through our initiatives. So the holistic student support, maybe just to further explain, in terms of DUT, we basically, our research has indicated that, you know, obviously our students that we enroll come from a variety of backgrounds at different levels of preparedness and development. So this actually requires us to design and implement intentional support or student support initiatives to nurture students through their academic and campus transition. So also at the center of the holistic student support and development initiatives at DUT is the collaboration, as indicated already, between academic departments, support units, and students. So students' voice is quite critical, and also they are the contributors as well in terms of how they want actually and what it is that actually is relevant in terms of what their needs are. So DUT prioritizes the voices of students through fostering student agency for success. And to achieve this, as I've indicated, I'm not going to go back to that. You know, there's academic excellence, which, as I've said, tutorials, academic support, and other skills development initiatives, as well as capacity development initiatives. And also within the transition and adaptation, it's not just the first year experience, but also the senior year experience program and other related programs. So here we don't only focus on the core psychological interventions, but also the broader psychosocial aspects as well in terms of student development, where again, the element of collaboration becomes quite critical. For instance, we work with support services such as the student housing and accommodation. We work with the academic support units as well, like your library and other such departments and units. Also, it's important in terms of the active participation and involvement that we also work with units like the student governance and development, the sports unit as well, in terms of the programs to ensure that whatever areas that require mental health intervention and psychosocial interventions, we also can make contributions. So adopted from the Envision 2030, DUT foregrounds a variety of theories to contextualize initiatives for impact and success through data-driven practices. In fact, across all our programs that we do, we also have to make sure that we collect data, analyze that data, and evaluate also our programs. So how we monitor the mental health of our students, particularly within the student counseling unit, for all the interactions that we have across our programs, we actually record, we capture the statistics using templates and forms that are designed to collect, data in terms of the biographical data, the study, and because this is for tracking purposes as well as to just get to know the picture of our students in terms of the mental health elements that students present with. So we have the academic data in terms of study, course, and information, what faculty they come from, the level of study, the conduct type, whether the students are actually coming frequently to use the services, and the types of consultations that we actually had with those students, whether it's in person, tele engagements, or online. We also have to identify the presenting problems or issues, and these are categorized in two broad categories, which is non-therapy issues such as time concessions, parking pillow, which is the food security program that we run, and I'll elaborate on it a little later to what exactly is the parking pillow program, because it's the one initiative that we've identified as the one that we would share with the colleagues. And also we have the therapy issues, which are the core therapeutic aspects that we deal with in terms of our consultation, such as issues of anxiety, trauma, and whatever else that the students are presenting with that is of a therapeutic nature. We also have various tools that we've integrated into our programs. You'll see later on, I will also highlight what the unit has has a number of subunits within it. The student counseling and health has actually 4 units within it, but I'll come to that slide shortly. So some of these tools are used across the other units as well, such as the higher health screening tool, which is actually used. We populate that to show information in terms of what the students presented with, and those that required referrals, where they were referred, and so forth. We also train and capacitate our residence advisors, our TAs, our academics, our peer educators, our house committees, by empowering them with the basic helping and referral skills in terms of how to identify students in distress or in need of mental health interventions, and how to identify those students, how to intervene without actually ethically, so to say, and how to refer to us for professional interventions. We also have crisis intervention initiatives, and as well as trauma debriefing sessions. And with those as well, lecturers are well equipped in terms of, or capacitated in terms of actually how to identify those and actually refer. And we have protocols in terms of students where, whether it's in the lecture room or whether it's in the residences, in terms of them having to actually call in the psychologist to come with interventions in case there's a crisis, or where there are students have experienced some traumas, for trauma debriefing sessions. We also have a variety of yes.
Apologies, I'm just interrupting you. I know unfortunately, there were some technical problems, but just in the interest of time, could you perhaps maybe just focus on the intervention, or the one intervention that you mentioned that you would like to actually talk a little bit more about? Could you maybe jump to that and just tell us a bit more about it and what the experiences was. This is very interesting, but I'm just in the interest of time, because I know it's a long session. We are having a discussion segment at the end, and so of course, you know, we welcome then for people to ask questions and to make further contributions there. Sorry, Sijle.
No problem.
Thank you.
I will just then move through to the Pagimpilo program. So the Pagimpilo program is actually a food security intervention that we have devised for our students. This actually came about because when we saw a number of students in our counseling unit, most students presented with issues relating to financial difficulties, and it was identified that most students would actually have issues in terms of food, and it would go for days without actually having meals, which of course would impact on the mental health as well as the well-being generally of those students, as well as their academic success as well. So this program we call the Pagimpilo program, and we want to believe that this is a program intended to foster a socially cohesive and inclusive campus. So this project was initiated by the dean way back in 2011, but it has actually evolved. And again, as we've said, that when students presented with food issues or issues of hunger, you would find that staff out of concern would then share their own personal resources such as food and money, which was definitely unsustainable. And we realized that the scale of the problem was quite huge. So the program was formally established in around 2020 with the intention to alleviate food insecurity concerns for our students at DUT. So now this has grown to be a very big program, and all the stakeholders, as you've heard in my earlier slides, say that we collaborate across the board. So everyone, we market this program quite intensively within the institution, and anyone within the institution that would identify students with food issues, they would then refer the students to us. And then the process in terms of students that require this is that they would apply by providing documentation that would actually support them in terms of not having bursaries or not being in having any funding. So in most cases, these are the self-paying students that actually are not supported by any bursaries or even financial aid. But we've seen also that at times where there are issues within the financial aid, this program has actually come in handy to actually assist. So our role is actually then to sift through the applications, look at all the documents that have been submitted, verify them, which is basically, but the initial part is to actually have an interview with the student so that the student's dignity is not actually compromised. So we screen the students and we have the interview, and then the students would need to actually submit the relevant documentation, after which the student is allocated the vouchers. But this project also is a multi-pronged project. As much as it started with the allocation of vouchers, we realized that at a certain point we ran out of vouchers, and then the project doesn't move on, and we are stuck with a whole number of students that require the support. We have now extended the program to have also the food pantry, where we have food parcels that we package and issue out to the students. So the food vouchers, it's a 4-month interim program. So where then after the students have been assessed, a qualifying student would receive a voucher worth 2,000 rands, but we do not issue the entire 2,000 rand in one go. So it is allocated in a 4-phased manner whereby we give 500. In fact, we've raised it. When we started, it was 250 that we would give at a particular time, and the student would follow up and collect the rest until they reach the end at the 4-month. But now it is 500 rands that we actually allocate per period that the student would come to us until throughout the 4 months is completed. So also students use these vouchers. We negotiate with service providers or shops that actually provide also prices that are reasonable, so to say. I've shown here some of the partners that we have, and through engagement with students and sponsors, students themselves, because their voice is quite important, and even the student leaders like the SRC have actually advised us that we consider other outlets as well that have relatively cheaper prices compared to some of the partners. And we have also considered that, and some of the partners have actually changed, and we've opted for those that actually are much cheaper, so that students can actually get value for their money. But one other important thing as well within this program is that students can't use this for anything else but to buy food. So we've negotiated with these outlets that they do not give students things like cigarettes, airtime, and those kind of things, or alcohol or that kind of thing. So students use these vouchers at these outlets under those very strict conditions. So this actually empowers students to be self-sufficient as well, because the program is actually meant to be a temporary relief for our students as well. But we find that some of the students would actually return to the program, and we do look at their circumstances and assess whether we can, even beyond the maximum period that they have come, if we need to, then we extend based on their circumstances. And that's just a picture of what the voucher looks like. Before, we used to do the manual allocation and register. It was a tedious process, but now the entire process has actually been, it's now an online. Students can actually apply online, and they can upload all the required documents online. Which before it was really, really difficult, because students would have, bring volumes of documentation, and now we find that it is actually easier for students to actually apply and access the program.
1 minute, Sishle. 1 minute.
So the challenges that we've experienced actually with this program is that the funding sometimes runs out, but since we have grown with this program, we do have staff that are actually making contributions from their salaries on a month-to-month basis. We also venture into asking for donors to actually contribute into the program. And we've seen also our student leaders coming into the party as well. On an annual basis, you find that they take a portion of their budget and actually make contributions to the program. And also they are also able to actually go out to organizations and actually make a request towards contributions of this program, such as also recently we've had a huge donation of about 90,000 coming from them, which they got from the Motsepe Foundation, just as an example. Also, the other challenge that we have is that sometimes through the NEFSAS issues, for instance, in 2023, we had a huge number of students wanting to be considered in the program because they were defunded by NEFSAS. Some of the challenges also in terms of the verification of the documents where students would submit fraudulent documentation, and also going out to outlets as well, trying to use the vouchers to purchase things that unfortunately are not meant to be purchased with those vouchers. But we do have a link with the outlets that actually provide, and we are able to address those issues. Also, we have students that seem to be entirely dependent on this program who return time and time again because they don't have alternative funding. Hence, we've had this food pantry to complement us in terms of when we run out of the vouchers, then we can put the packages for the students. And we also have initiatives within the campus to have the campus community actually donating, and we have food drives and programs that are also department-based that are actually assisting using the students themselves actually to advocate for this particular program. Just also our stats have shown us that there's a growing demand instead of it reducing. For instance, in 2023, we had 340 applicants, and you can see the huge numbers in terms of 2024, where we saw 784 students applying. And 90 were allocated or rather received the food vouchers in 2024. And in terms of the, in fact, the parcels, it's 90 parcels that were distributed to students. And in terms of the vouchers, 161 were allocated. We've seen also that the use of online systems has actually improved the turnaround times in terms of the program, as well as managing the applicants, the applications generally. And this is something also that is very new. Well, it's not so new in terms of from where it has developed, but in terms of how we viewed ourselves as the counseling units, that these were elements that otherwise were not a part of what we would do. But it is now fully entrenched as we recognize its importance in the mental health and as well as the general well-being of our students. And those are just some of the stats. And what is interesting is the responses in terms of the students when we do the evaluations. We do ask the students to give us their views in terms of the program. And some students have been concerned about the duration of the program. For instance, some of the responses we've got would be that students would be happy if the program extends longer than 6 months. Some of the students are satisfied with the duration, but students generally appreciate the program. And of course, we do get negative feedback, and I think it's particularly relating to those that are not able to actually get accommodated for a variety of reasons. Also, in terms of the rating, this is, if you're confused by what you see here, we also evaluate the effectiveness of the program by looking at those students that benefit from the program. So this 4.35 is actually rating out of 5. So this is what students are saying that, you know, so 4.35 is actually about 90% of the students, or just above 90% of the students, feel that the program is quite effective in alleviating their food issues. And generally, other feedback from students, they would give us feedback.
I'm so
such
sorry.
as,
I'm going to have to stop you there because we are running over time, and I think our next presenter, she has another time commitment as well. So unfortunately, please do share your presentation, because we will. I think we have also had just some emails I'm monitoring where people would like us to send them the slides. So with all presenters, please, if you don't mind, email Ephraim or myself your slides, and then when we respond with the links to the recording, we'll share all the slides as well. Sish, they're so sorry. I know.
No, thank you. That was actually my last
so
slide.
I'll let you go on. But yeah,
all right.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Sure. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Charlize, thank you for your patience. Northwest University.
Good morning.
And then we'll stop for tea break. Thank you.
It's all good. I will start sharing my screen, and then you can just tell me yes when you see it. Let me just share. Can everyone see my presentation?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me today. Luckily, I only have a commitment at 11:30, so a bit of time, but I'll really try to get our schedule ahead today. So if I go too quickly through things, please just stop me if it's unclear. So yes, just as an introduction, I'm Charlize. I'm an industrial psychologist and also a researcher here at the NWU. And I will get into about what StudyWell is specifically. So just to know today that I'm not speaking for the whole university and all the wellbeing initiatives that we have going. Instead, I'm focusing on what we are doing as StudyWell. So StudyWell is actually a very interesting research project that has been developed in 2016. So we'll see here that we are situated in our economic and management sciences faculty. But then there was a research entity established, Management Cybernetics, and specifically the focus is to better and improve research and practice exchanges, because sometimes we don't talk to one another, right? So then Prof. Karina Mostert, which is our project lead, she then developed the project StudyWell. So then StudyWell eventually expanded to having a whole team and different people on board, researchers both internally and externally. Internally, we have a lot of stakeholders. So that obviously is firstly our students. And then we have our student counseling and development services. We have our career center. We have our Center for Teaching and Learning, faculty deans, the first year experience. So those all fall part as our stakeholders internally. So we inform them with the research that we get. We try to get it into practice. And then we have a lot of external stakeholders, such as the platform we have here today, Siyaphumelela, the networks that we have. And then we also have a lot of international research collaborations, which really helps to just ensure that our research is on par and doing what the world is doing, but in a South African perspective. So our approach today that I will just get into is that we look at student wellbeing from the SDR, study demands resources perspective. And then our main purpose at this stage, and it's been quite a journey, is to develop the live tracking and monitoring system. And I will get more into each of them just now. So why did we actually develop the SDR, or study demands resources model? So you would know actually that a lot of research that we get today is very fragmented sometimes, or it's very isolated. There's not really a holistic approach to student wellbeing, because we all are human and we only have a capacity to such an extent. So many approaches mainly adopt a Western approach, and the South African norms and benchmarks aren't really that set yet. I know the BUSI and the SASE has been going on for quite a while, and I think that was really one of the first steps to starting to develop South African norms and benchmarks towards our students are focusing on. So then we decided that we really want to develop an approach that is South African based, The validation and the questionnaires are South African based, and it's actually being tested on our students themselves. And it's not just a copy and a paste action that we take from Western perspectives. So obviously, where did this model stem from? I think some of you in the meeting might be familiar with the job demands resources model. If you're not, I would really recommend to go and Google it. I can also send you some resources if you reach out to me. But this model has been developed in the occupational health and psychological well-being perspective. And it has been used since 2001 in the work context. And it's really been, it's been adapted a bit and it has been elaborated on, but it's really a framework to understand what's the drivers of well-being, what's the outcomes thereof, and actually what's the impact on not only you as an individual, but also as a business. So I think you can start hearing as an industrial psychologist, we also look at the business side of things, because sometimes universities see well-being as a bit of fluffy, and we really want them to start investing more resources, but we have to show them the business case for this. So this is where our approach is a bit different. So we then took the job demands resources model and adapted it into the STR theory, which you can also Google. I can also send you some articles. It has been published last year, end of last year, the position paper on this. So you will see just quickly, I will go here from the left-hand side. I'm not sure if you will see my toggle here on the screen. Oh, now it's going to want to go forward. Let me go just back here. Okay, so on the left-hand side, we have the study demands and study resources, right? So these are the drivers of well-being, essentially. These are the things influencing our students. And that can ultimately either stimulate a health impairment process, which is the negative side of things. If students can't cope with the study demands, they have too much, they have too little resources, which can lead to burnout and then strain, and ultimately influence outcomes such as their intention to drop out, academic performance, both individual and organizational outcomes. But then, of course, you will also see as a component here self-undermining behavior. So students sometimes have a lot of demands, but there's also individual processes at play influencing their well-being. So we're really trying to look at this holistically, all the components that come into play that influence their well-being. And then obviously we have a motivational process as well, which is if you have efficient study resources, you have challenging demands, but you have the resources to meet them, which actually gets you engaged in your studies and extracurricular activities, and that ultimately stimulate your well-being and lead to positive outcomes. And then here we again have an individual component or proactive behavior. I think a lot of us know students like that. They're just a bit different. They take initiative, they are proactive, and definitely that makes a huge difference in how they experience university as a whole. So that's the model and the approach that we use. So this model we are now using to develop a live monitoring system. I can't share a platform today, but I will go into how we started to develop this and what our approach is at the end and what we aim to get with it. So why did we actually look at developing a live monitoring system? The gaps are definitely that there is needed for a sophisticated information system where we can actually learn from the success areas at university. This would say that in this faculty, engineering, perhaps, this student is really struggling. But then we see in this faculty, the students are really doing well. So what are they doing different? We really want to learn from across board, from faculties, even courses, and see where the success areas is. But then we also want to identify the risks, right? And at the end, this is to actually ensure that there are student governance and also create that business intelligence while we are doing all of this. So our aim at the end is to develop a diverse monitoring system that really takes into account diverse student groups. So you will remember the STR model. We actually validated, I would say, about 97% of those constructs that's being measured now. We developed questionnaires for it. We validated it in the South African context, and we also published papers on it. So we are not going to measure this with Western perspectives. This tool is going to be The background is going to be the SDR model, and we are going to see the dynamics at play. And then at the end, the aim is to actually have a real-time reporting and scenario analysis, what is happening with the students. And obviously we want this to plug in with university information systems, such as the academic scores perhaps. And obviously you can think there's a lot of ethics involved in all of this. So it's been quite a process going on for about a year and a half now. And to what end do we actually want to do this? We want to answer some key questions. We want to see, is our students functioning optimally? Is the study environment supporting them? What are the levels of well-being, and what are the drivers of these well-being, the risks and the performance? And then we want to categorize areas needing support so that we can allocate resources properly. And then also the business people and the people at the top always want to know, what is it costing us and what is the return on investment? We also want to inform that part. And then, as I said, learn from the successful areas, because there are things that we are doing well. So the system just in process. So firstly, we just got the conceptualization, which was all the validation, getting all the buy-in, the stakeholders, funding. And luckily we did get that, and we have a lot of support for this project and this research going on. And then phase 2 is obviously ongoing. The last parts need to be validated. It's just the last step. And we are now busy developing a prototype, and after which we will pilot it. And we are doing this with an Australian-based company that does like software development, and they have a really good understanding about the JDR model in essence, and they have develop such type of monitoring systems in the workplace. So I really hope that they will be the right provider. Again, a lot of ethics involves IP legal, but we are managing the process, and we're very excited about what will come at the end. So I hope that there will be a webinar perhaps next year, and then I can showcase, you know, what the prototype maybe looks like, what is the type of metrics that we do get from it. Yeah, so that in a nutshell is study well and what we are doing, and a bit of a research approach to student well-being, and informing that. Thank you. Thank you for your time. And if you have questions, I won't be here for the Q&A as I have another session running, but feel free to contact me at my email address, send your questions. If you need some access to articles, then I can also send that to you.
Thank you so much, Charlize, and for actually, you know, I think you finished within your 20 minutes. So thank you. I know we're running late, and you did have another commitment. So thank you for your patience. And yeah, it's very interesting. I think I love that so many institutions are turning to technology, you know, and it's because of the massification and you know, facing issues in terms of staffing and not having the staff to meet the demand. And so technology as a viable tool. So we really look forward to, once you have it applied and you've got some data and sharing that data down the line. So thank you so much. Colleagues, I think we're going to stop for a break now. So what is the time? I'm just trying to figure out here, 9 o'clock. So it's 2 minutes to 11. I think let's maybe stop for a 10-minute break, and then we'll then be back at 10 past. Thank you.
Yes, Ephraim.
Good. Thank you, Leticia. Hi, cool.
Okay, sorry, Prime. So I was having technical challenges there. I'm not sure. Can you still see my screen, everyone?
I can
Yes, we
see the
can.
program, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
we can.
All right. Yeah, I did a quick
Yes.
thank you so much, colleagues. Thank you. I'm still got my mug of tea here next to me. I did a quick, let me just move this. I'm not sure if that's in the way. Anyway, do you just see my screen, or do you see also a bit of the Zoom?
We see the program that you are sharing, with adjusted times.
Oh, perfect. Okay, okay. I wasn't sure what you're saying. So yes, so I've just adjusted it quickly. I think we're actually 2 minutes over that. But we have three more presentations, and that's going to be from WITS, UKZN, and UWC. As you can see, I think the discussion segment, I've just, to save us some time because we are running behind, I've just shortened that, so we are still scheduled to end at 1 o'clock. So yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to stop sharing, and Anne, it's over to you. Thank you. Thanks, colleagues. With us, Anne?
Apologies, Koo, I was disconnected. Showing unstable. I'm going to try and quickly share my screen. Can you hear me?
Okay. If you're having tech problems, Anne, maybe we can ask if Sanele would be willing just to go on while you sort out your tech glitches.
Can you hear me?
Can hear you, yes.
Okay.
Are you good to go? All right. Perfect.
Think so, hopefully.
Okay, we're seeing your screen. Go into presentation mode. Perfect.
Okay, thanks so much. Apologies. I did want to say hello very briefly, just say hi everyone, but my signal is kind of unstable, so I'm not going to keep the video on for long. All right. Colleagues, I'm not going to be very long. I'm aware of the time constraints. I will be sharing an overview of the WITS mental wellness strategy for students. The rationale for the first strategy was based on escalations of psychological, psychiatric issues presented by students. This was around probably starting already 2016, 2017, where they started already spiking, and then 2018 was particularly difficult, where there was also, unfortunately, increased suicidality, some completed suicides, and increased numbers of students requesting therapy for what became more and more severe mental health issues versus a small staff capacity. In addition, there were serious psychosocial challenges, as we're all aware of, increased trends in gender-based violence, in hunger, food insecurity. And so following extensive consultations, particularly in 2018, there were meetings, surveys, focus groups with a broad range of stakeholders, staff and students, an inclusive multidisciplinary and campus-wide strategy was co-developed and implemented with stakeholders to try and enhance student mental and emotional well-being, resilience, and support. The strategy was presented to the senior executive team in February of 2019, and it was endorsed and approved until 2022, when it was to be once again reviewed. So just to share with you the key developments from the rollout of the strategy, this included additional resources for mental health professionals. So there were additional psychologists at the Counseling Careers Development Unit, both in 2019 and 2022. Also to capacitate the campus health in terms of psychiatric services. So there was a psychiatrist and mental health nurse employed at campus health. And definitely the additional staff capacity has assisted with the provision of services to students. It's never enough, as everyone knows, but that certainly did help. In addition, the resources covered a 24-hour WITS student crisis line and texting app operated by an external provider, as well as resourcing the outdoor gyms, which were installed by Witsport to contribute to student wellness and stress reduction. And also resources were made available for de-stress zones on campus, which included jumping castles, successful initiatives actually from the SRC to support students during pre-exam periods. Also, resources were made available for measures. So there was balustrades which were constructed on a bridge, and as that was identified as potentially high risk. And just to share with you then, in 2022, the strategy was due for the mandatory review, which coincided, as everyone knows, with the early phase of post-COVID world. At that stage, World Health Organization indicated that COVID-19 pandemic had triggered a global mental health crisis, which we're all aware of, with a global rise in anxiety and depressive disorders increasing significantly during the first year of the pandemic, as well as suicidality and completed suicides. In 2021, WHO findings on suicidality indicated that South Africa had the third highest suicide rate in Africa. Sadly, colleagues, that continues, and that the third leading cause of death among 15 to 29-year-olds, according to SADC in 2022, was suicidality, and that there were 23 suicides occurring daily in South Africa, as well as 230 suicide attempts. So bringing it close to home, at the same time, at WIT, during this post-COVID time, there was a substantial increase in the demand for therapy, in particular for students presenting with high levels of anxiety, in particular, depression, and heightened academic-related stress. Also, spiked issues in family concerns, relationship issues, and bereavement. What became more prominent was loneliness. Social developmental delays were becoming more evident, and an increase in suicidal ideation and admissions. In addition to that, there were serious psychosocial challenges, for example, increased trends in gender-based violence, food insecurity, financial issues, homelessness, and difficulties in adjusting to university life. Sorry. Colleagues, the mental wellness strategy at that stage was to be reviewed and updated to address the trends. So the strategy review in 2022, during that period, was based on a series of stakeholder meetings, consultations, workshops, and focus groups with a wide range of internal key stakeholders, of course, students, student leadership cohorts, staff, senior managers, a broad range of internal stakeholders. I won't go through everybody in the interest of time, as well as external stakeholders such as a CISO. The data was utilized from student mental health surveys by Analytics and Institutional Research Unit on campus, as well as the survey from Student Representative Council. And all of this information informed the new strategy, as well as feedback from a benchmarking process. Apologies for that. Colleagues, the key points from the review process with students and staff indicated that an institutional and intersectional approach to strengthening prevention work regarding the mental wellness strategy was a critical area of focus going forward, as well as the need for workshops which focused on, in terms of institutional cultures, which focused on identity and values for both students and staff. Also, that an approach of strengthening systemic wellness initiatives and services was required, with Also highlighting staff wellness as a priority to increase support programs as well for food insecurity and homelessness. While these were happening, there was most certainly, these were flagged to be increased and expanded. Also, to enhance academic support for students to address high levels of academic stress. So there was much more need to work collaboratively with our academic colleagues. Also, to increase collaborative mental health advocacy programs and initiatives between mental health service providers and faculties, for example, our academic advisors, and of course, to increase capacity building of staff and student cohorts and first responders. And so an inclusive multidisciplinary campus-wide strategy was, again, co-developed with stakeholders, this time, though, to, in particular, advance prevention work and collaborations to enhance student mental and emotional well-being, resilience, and support. And on the slide, you can see that these are the key stakeholders as part of the ecosystem for a caring environment, absolutely critical for the effective rollout of the new strategy. The senior executive management team approved the strategy in 2023 for 5 years, after which there would need to be another extensive review process in 2028. The updated strategy is an institutional imperative, and this included 4 predominant pillars. So the promotion of psychological and emotional well-being and destigmatization toward prevention. The key focus areas here are preventative advocacy, mental health outreach campaigns, and capacity building. The next pillar is enhancement of access to professional mental health services. Key focus areas, short-term therapy, both online and on-campus services, obviously extending group work, online booking system, resources for additional mental health professionals as well. And the next key pillar is the promotion of a culture of support and belonging through collaborative programs and initiatives. The key focus areas there, collaborative programs and initiatives between mental wellness stakeholders and, for example, student leadership and transformation and other social justice partners. And then the fourth pillar, which is, of course, the alignment to the WITS 2033 vision and strategy, the key focal areas being the promotion of an environment of caring and holistic wellness, and programs towards the facilitation of a positive student experience and student success. So briefly, the mental wellness strategy implementation review and planning process, 2023 to 28, continues to be championed by the Dean of Students. It is endorsed by the Senior Executive Management Team of the university, and it is driven by the Counselling Careers Development Unit in collaboration with stakeholders. Rollout of the strategy includes quarterly review and planning meetings of the mental health task team, which monitors the updates and of the rollout and the implementation. And these are attended by a wide range of participant stakeholders, inclusive of senior managers, the Dean of Students. We also have, not every single time because of time issues, but other senior managers join, for example, the Deputy Vice Chancellor for People Development and Culture is also champions the strategy, as well as SRC, the SRC president, student leaders, social justice colleagues, legal office, protection, various stakeholders are part of this forum. The interactive presentations and discussions which happen there cover the implementation of each of the strategic pillars. And in this updated version of the strategy, there's a particular focus, as I mentioned, on enhancing prevention initiatives. So some examples include capacity building, expanded capacity building, psychoeducative and supportive skill workshops for student and staff cohorts, throughout the campus on guidelines for student support, student leadership cohorts, for example, SRC, residence committee, and peer advocates. In addition, there are pertinent themes that are addressed in these forum workshops. For example, student mental health in residences, best practices for individual and group therapy, African spirituality and healing practices, advocacy and prevention, student transitions and persistence, student resilience, LGBTQIA+ advocacy, help-seeking behaviors, substance abuse, food insecurity, and many more. Update reports on the implementation of the strategy are all presented at university committees throughout the academic year, at senior committee meetings such as Student Services Advisory and the University Wellness Forum, as well as for Student Affairs Strategic Planning. We find that this is really critically important to keep it on the agenda. I'm aware that other colleagues have also emphasized the importance of this being endorsed at a senior level. And the strategy is an organic process. So we do most certainly make sure that each year there are significant discussions around the need for any updates, any changes, and the student voice is, of course, absolutely vital in this process. But it is to be reviewed again comprehensively in 2028. And yeah, and I think I'll stop there. Thank you.
Wow, thanks so much, Anne. And yeah, you know, I'm also seeing this common thread in the presentations where institutions are, if they don't already have a framework or a policy in place, are actually working or revising, you know, existing or older policies, are very actively and intentionally focusing on this. You know, and this, I think, actually is related then to the transformation, you know, in terms of the theory of change. It's pivotal in terms of transforming institutions to better serve mental health needs at institutions. Thank you so much, Anne. I think we're now going to turn over to UKZN and Sanele Zuma. Thank you, Sanele, for stepping in to represent UKZN, and welcome.
Thank you. I hope I'm audible, Sanbona. I'll behave and stick to my time, and please do shout when I need to shut up.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Sanele. We see your screen.
All right, awesome. Okay, so we'll be looking at the online booking system we use. We will be talking to that tool and how it informs our interventions here at UKZN. I'll just run through some of the stuff because I've been listening. Colleagues are pretty much doing what we seem to be doing as well. So there'll be that aspect of academic personnel and career counseling in our student counseling work, but also tracking students who are underperforming and supporting them. There are a number of support groups. We have a number of student development workshops. And as a student development officer myself, I champion those a lot. So being in student residencies, doing group work and training, actually, including training others who work with students, the trainer approaches. I also, for example, serve as chair also to the Men of Virtue program here at UKZN, which is an organization placed at fighting GBV, championed by men, educating young boys, and supporting them in that aspect as well. So that's pretty much what we do. But the work of counseling at UKZN works within this college-based system. So we have 4 campuses and student support services counseling, if we're to put it that way, exist in all those 4. So it's a college-based model. It can be debated on how effective that or the limitations of that, but it's just trying to get students closer to home and making support much more and processes much more efficient. So the hybrid model of counseling for business continuity, it came through post-COVID, which saw this blended model of learning at 2 KZN, which meant that even our work in counseling has to follow suit. So we have face-to-face and online counseling sessions for students. How do students access counseling? Bookcamp for booking individual counseling appointments, and I'll be talking to Bookcamp in particular, as it is used by 2 of the 4 colleges, student support services. But there is a toll-free line which is used by everyone across colleges that feeds to our administrator. Students can call, students can email, they can walk in, and we can get referrals. Okay, about Bookcamp. So Bookcamp is a booking system. It's owned by a private company, so it's outsourced. Like I indicated, my College of Agricultural Engineering and Science and the College of Law and Management Studies are using it. We also have our academic and monitoring and support unit within the college also using it. So it involves quite a number of role players. It's a booking system, so students get reminders about their appointments. So ICS get involved there, finance, because there are payments involved. So there is a website for it for students to book. And it's been an official booking system for us since 2020. It costs. So I was asking Shelley about, by the way, Shelley, my line manager is the one who should have been here to present this. Yeah, and it's more like we paying 48,700 Rand per annum for 12 calendars, which means that we per calendar would be looking at about 4,000 per year. Right, so the student will go to the online booking system when they enter that address. This is the screen that they see. They can book an appointment either online and in person, and they'll choose their campus. Having done that, then they'll see all of the counselors who are there, and a little bit of bio about each, and then they will decide who they want to see, and they will see available slots. From the side of a counselor now, you'll be getting, it will reflect on the system as a request, and you can either approve or deny it. And when it's approved, it sends an automatic email to the student, and the student will be getting regular notification closer to the day of the appointment. So this is what it would look like. I was just trying to scratch some names here so that I'm not sued for other things. Okay, post the session, having seen the student now, you can go and indicate what were the presenting issues. And this is important because I'll be sharing with you how we use this actually to for research purposes and to actually plan our interventions. So it's quite a long drop-down list of presentations which we revise from time to time. And the student would also have a section where they can put in notes, whatever they want you to be mindful of as they're booking. So this is only accessible to us as counselors, and then we just put in the primary presentation of that particular student. The system also allows for us to make notes. So as much as we keep files, but we can also have electronic files on the system. So it's a system that is good in many ways, in terms of its accessibility, these notifications and reminders. It gives so much more, and I think it makes for a much more positive student experience. And confidentiality and privacy are things that are also ensured, although there will be limitations because it's, after all, it's an online system. But it has its limitations as well, the cost being one of them. And some people quite often would ask you, why would you outsource? Wouldn't the institution provide something of this kind? Yes, I think in strong ICS institutions, you may get this, but as I'll be talking to it, you'll see that it provides much more than just bookings and appointment. So yeah, and the customization is limited. So you cannot. We have added quite a few things along the way, but we don't have. We can't really input everything that we want to do. So we use data here for that generates itself on a monthly basis for reporting purposes in the form of stats report. So I'm the dedicated member for stats and reports. So every month I generate 3 reports: the individual stats reports, the group stats report, and the student services report. And when we're lucky, we do get our data analyst interns who would be graduate with the postgrad qualification. So that helps a lot in relieving the pressure of me when they're around, but it also helps with quality assurance, just scrutinizing our data collection, analysis, and interpretation processes if they are accurate. So basically, if we have 12 calendars, it means every person who uses the system and sees students will be able to get data from all the students they've seen. And my responsibility will be to combine that data and generate reports out of that. And maybe I quickly stop sharing so that I give you an opportunity to see what it will look like. So in seconds, so this is an example of combined data from every counselor. I've just hidden the student numbers and the first names of students. So this is everybody's data that I'll be working with. And from this, I'll generate reports such as this. I'll just share an example of the individual stats report. This is not really for research purposes, just helping us in understanding trends of what we're dealing with. So you get a picture of your numbers and how work is distributed across our sites. And those who are coming in, I had a colleague who made mention of online systems and students not showing up. Yes, it is a challenge. We see it also. How many sessions were face-to-face, how many were online, and the demographics of students, what's the kind of student that we're seeing. And outside that, then consultations. So we say consultations in referring to students who will be coming repeatedly, but we also separate consultations to presenting problems. You know, where you may be seeing a student for therapy and they present with depression and they come 3 times a month. So you need to be able to separate that from that particular student so that you are able to count heads as well. So these will be presenting problems. We identify the top 5, the top 10s, and then interesting trends, which become subjective information that I'll be using, studying previous reports and seeing if there is anything significant that is showing up in the report on that particular month. Okay, so this is just one part of what Bootcamp does, but it also allows us, I'll just jump to it since I'm already here, to share, to have client satisfaction surveys. Every month, every counselor, upon receiving their raw stats, they also get their client satisfaction survey results, which are received by our line manager and sent to us. And we also use this not just for quality assurance, but also for PR, because we provide these global scores when we meet, and it's quite a useful feature as well for students, because it enlightens us on what we need to be mindful of in as far as our services are concerned. Okay, so how am I doing with timing? Five minutes, maybe 10. All right. Anyway,
you're good. Sorry, you're good, Sanele.
Okay, cool. All right, so that's basically what we get from Bootcamp, and like I said, we get this the client satisfaction survey. So it's an automated survey link that gets sent to students post there as soon as you have attended to the student, and then anonymously they can input information there. And items would include things like the extent to which they find it easy to talk to their counselor, and if they were able to generate some insight on their challenges, if they're able to identify any of their strengths, and if, things like that. All right. And now we're shifting back to how Bootcamp actually can be used to inform interventions and understanding of the evolution of psychological changes in students over time. I took special interest in just the recent presentation, because speaking to some of these, and we're using this study as an example. And this is something Shelley Barnsley and was presenting in the International Congress of Psychology last year. And it included colleagues and our research analyst. I think they're in the process of publishing this paper. So basically analyzing psychosocial changes in South African University, looking at presentations before COVID, during COVID, and post-COVID, sourcing data from Bootcamp to see if there are any significant changes in presentations. Okay, so it's a comparative analysis, like I indicated, of the COVID conditions to see if we're seeing any differences, to them specifically with our cohort of students in the College of AES. Okay, so we're looking to check if there are any variations there. So using secondary data set from records of clients, and in the 4 sites where we operate, which is Pietermaritzburg, Westville campus, Howard College, and Sidara. And although we have stopped with Sidara from this year. So looking at data from the 1st of January 2018 to the 31st of July 2023, we were able to find a sample size of over 2,400, of over 24,000 primary presentations from counseling consultations. So basically, it's just looking at everyone who was coming to us using the system at that time. What was the primary presenting problem? We say primary in a sense that, for example, somebody with funding difficulties may be struggling to find accommodation. There may be issues, food insecurity issues, but at the primary of it, it's the lack of funding, or depression, poor time management, but at the center of it. So we're looking at those primary presentations. So the comparative analysis, it was for pre, during, and post COVID-19 was conducted. Okay, our research analyst was helping us with the data there. All right, but we looked at all. I said that there is a long drop-down list of presenting problems. but we were categorizing them into academic and career, as well as psychological and health, and social and economic. So just looking at these three broad careers to see if there are any significant differences in presentations over time. So your academic and career presentations, those things that students will come for needing assistance in coping, academic skills, time management, careers, could be career assessments or counseling and the likes. The psychological and health presentations is those health presentation plus those clinical presentations on the main, your depression, anxiety, personality disorders and the likes. The social and economic will just speak to issues around accommodation, financial problems, food insecurity, and things like that. Okay, so at the time where we there was no before basically before COVID, when we did not even have an online platform, we were seeing a lot of academic and career presentations, and followed by psychological and health. But you could see that on the main, about, more than 2/3 of our presenting problems on the main were around academic and career. Okay, then COVID came, we had to be completely online and exclusively. And then we started noticing that as much as academic and career were still quite the main, but they had dropped quite significantly if you compare to a period before COVID. So we're seeing psychological and health picking up, which is something that is somehow supported by the previous presentations in terms of presentations around COVID and the socio-economic at that time. Okay, so post-COVID, it was more of a hybrid model where we see students face-to-face, but we're also seeing them online. And then we noticed that we're now seeing much more psychological and health compared to academic and career. Okay, so it's been interesting developments from this form of data. This is just looking at under these broad categories, those different presentations, and if there were those that were of any significant changes over time in comparison. We'll speak to that. All right, but pre-COVID prevalent issues proved to be academic race, relationship problems, and depression, if we were to analyze those trends much closer. During COVID, shifts in dominant themes, increased focus on academic risk, anxiety, relationship problems, and accommodation difficulties. But post-COVID, there was this notable shift in dominant categories where academic risk, personal development, and relationship problems were there. But it's important to note that while relationship problems at the highest frequency under social and economic, the psychological and health as a main category was the highest presentation category. So, all right, this is just to indicate that statistically the differences were significant. And I had a lovely time, I've just forgotten about it, but I had it in my notes speaking to the caliber of students we have today who are so tech savvy, and our counseling work does require us to adapt to these kind of students, and it compels us to be more inclined with technology and think of ways in which we can make our resources available to students digitally or even our mental health care and methods that should reach students where they are in a way. So we've been channeling our energies towards that. Okay. I'm just cognizant of time. But in a nutshell, we've seen that psychosocial presentation and student support in higher education institutions South Africa evolves over time and context, and the student support services in this college in particular seem to be taking a pathway of using technology to enhance the transformation of services rendered. So in a nutshell, that's about it. But in a nutshell, colleagues, I think this was not just to, these are not necessarily to promote Bootcamp, but it's meant to be a platform where we indicate how a system like that, because I mean, we can all adopt it and create our own thing, how a system like that goes beyond just making bookings, but giving us useful data that could also be used for research and also to plan our interventions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanele. Yeah, for sharing your data, especially as well. I think I'm a data person, so I love seeing the data, and also that you are getting feedback and evaluations to improve the interventions. It's so important with M&E. So thank you so much for sharing the UKZN insights. And colleagues, our final presenter for the day in terms of the individual institution presenters, we've got the University of Western Cape and Dr. Renee Gerber. Thank you, Renee. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. It's actually afternoon. First correction, not Dr. Gerber, Ms. Gerber. I haven't done the PhD, so just a correction. Okay. My boss is present, so I can't sneak that one away. She earned hers with blood, sweat, and tears, so I can't just grab it. Let me share our presentation with you. Let's do that. And let me know if you can see it. I'm going to put it into mode. Are you able to see it?
Not yet.
Okie dokes. Let's try again.
We're seeing you basically, and
okay, that's not what I want. I want you to see the presentation. Let's exit. Let's share again. Okay, let me just redo the screen and the share.
Okay, something's coming.
Okie dokes. And here we go.
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. So I'm going to be zoning in on the process of developing a mental health and wellness policy at the University of the Western Cape, but more specifically, once the policy was developed, how we went about the implementation plans using a whole university approach. So this is a long process. I'm going to give you the big overview, the big picture quickly. We started in 2018 already, got some funding, and started a research-based, strong student voice mental health and wellness policy development with faculties, with support staff, with students. Long story, eventually in 2021, the mental health and integrated student mental health and wellness policy was accepted. And then we were given the challenge of, great, there's a policy, but often policies lie in the proverbial dust, and it is difficult for people to implement. And the idea was that we go from faculty to faculty. We look at the existing structures that faculties already work in, because the last thing you want when you're trying to change or shift a big organization like a university is to create more committees or create more work or create more anything that taps staff resources. So we had to find existing structures that could be sold on the idea of implementing a focus within their academic areas on student mental health and wellness. So what happened was that we challenged our faculty, so we worked with them and we said, right, we have a researcher and a writer, so you don't have to do the writing of this implementation plan, but you need to bring together an equal number of students and student leaders within your faculty and staff members, mostly staff members from the learning and teaching side, specifically student affairs. That would normally be, in our case, a deputy dean from a faculty that would chair a student affairs committee. And those are the people that you then got involved with in a whole process of understanding the policy, understanding student needs, and then developing a faculty-specific implementation plan. Because there is a big difference between faculties in terms of what their students need in order to be academically successful. Just a simple example, like for instance, the difference between a faculty like dentistry and arts and humanities in terms of how long a student could be absent from the program with mental health hospitalization before it became untenable for them to come back to the program. The dentistry faculty said 2 weeks of missed work and it would become near impossible to come back. Whereas the arts faculty said, but we have a different system. There can be online interventions. There can be online participation. So it is different for this faculty, and all those rules had to be written. But the bigger issue of the implementation plans was to give ownership and also at the same time empowerment to the students and the staff within faculties, because we understood that the faculties are at the heart of our universities, and we didn't want the support services to be on the periphery or just in another silo. So I'm not going to talk about the policy because of time. But when we did the implementation plans, the idea that we wanted every single student involved in the task team, every single staff member involved, was to understand how wellness was a very important aspect of mental health or the development of mental health or mental illness or the sustainability of it. So it was important for our staff members that are not psychologists or mental health practitioners to understand the continuum of mental health and to understand where they think they can't do anything about when they hear the word wellness. They now understand that within a faculty, within a classroom, within an office, there are basic things that everyone can do to make that a wellness environment. From something as simple as openness, friendliness, receptiveness, responsiveness, communication, to much more complicated issues. And then part of this implementation plan process was also that there was ongoing planned workshops and training with student leaders as well as our staff members in terms of what we refer to as psychological first aid and effective referral. We find that time-use interventions often can prevent, and I think we all know that, can prevent the development of more severe presentations. So just a very quick overview of what it looked like at UWC last year. With anxiety and depressive symptoms being our main presentations, and then academic concerns, trauma-related, bereavement, family and relational issues. So we understood this, and I've heard this from many universities, that the wellness area of concern is where more work needs to be put in to try and prevent the crisis. So I'll run through this list very quickly because I think you will all relate. But this comes from the data that we capture from students who've accessed individual counseling. Loneliness, very high on that list. Financial concerns, food security, suitable accommodation, safety, all kinds of safety. Unhelpful coping mechanisms, relational difficulties, academic concerns from the ability to read and write academically, large classes, feeling unable to speak up in class, confidence issues in lectures, speaking to lecturers, engaging, being engaged, adjustment, homesickness, time management, making good choices, managing the different influences, perceptions, and worldviews, managing diversity and cultural differences, language, spirituality, political views, you get the picture. So everyone knows this wellness wheel, and we look at it and we understand it, and it's a very simple graphic, but we really thought hard about how do we make this really practical and make this really work, because this is the prevention aspect of things. So the implementation plans can be summarized in what we call a CPR framework. Stealing a little bit from our medical colleagues, C being creating a wellness environment among staff and students within the university and employing the whole university approach where every stakeholder is empowered. Then the prevention aspect of mental health and other well-being crises through the creation of this wellness environment and flexible, clear preparedness for any eventuality. And then the response part where the response becomes necessary, and is to handle challenges that arise regarding mental health difficulties through effective and streamlined referral processes and access to care or remedial action as it is needed. So in terms of creating a wellness environment, what we have done practically, and these are some of the things that we have done, it is not an extensive list. Yeah. So the facilitation of the faculty-specific implementation plans, using existing structures, so you know that they are in place in every faculty, as well as in the student development and support sector in the offices. Whether it's sport, whether it's financial aid, whether it's Center for Student Support Services, or the counseling section, the leadership development, the gender equity, the Office for Students with Disabilities, everyone is involved. And they look at the unique context of each office or faculty. They allow for collaboration and effective referral processes across campus. So our job, or my job, is largely the ongoing training and capacity building for staff members and students to understand what is expected, how to manage, and how to refer effectively. And not just to a psychologist, because there used to be a trend of anything that happens on campus, send it to the counseling center. Now there is a lot more layers built in from peer to peer, and different programs as it gets more and more complicated or more and more specialist requirements. But we are building in so many different layers before that becomes necessary to really try and intervene at an early stage. So we also then negotiated with our faculties so that we could implement what I call the faculty-based sessional mental health professional model. So that is a very fancy sounding word for you pay and we manage the sessional psychologist according to, they become part of our team and our management and our peer supervision and using our systems and everything, but they're based in your faculty. They understand and meet with your staff members, your students, and they develop groups, workshops, webinars, interventions, individual counseling that is tailored to your faculty. And we have convinced some of our faculties, not every single one, but most of them, to actually do this. And they really enjoy having a faculty-based psychologist or social worker that they can refer to, that they know who it is, and that they can work with. And the professional mental health, the mental health professional then in the faculty then really gets to know the students and the staff and the issues, the trends, what students need, and it differs quite a bit. And then there is an ongoing monitoring and evaluation and research that goes into these implementation plans to keep it relevant and to adjust it on an annual basis, and sometimes even more frequently than that. So that is some of the creation of the wellness environment. It was really to pull the whole community together and to have everyone understand what they are capable of doing until when is it time for the next level. A lot of the prevention is about knowing when to do what. There's also a lot of preventative workshops, information sharing, psychoeducation. One of the most important and exciting tools that was developed at UWC is the so-called student success thermometer. It's an online self-help studiousness alert instrument, which is also equipped with enablers. So what that means is that students can access this online. It's in the form of a questionnaire, and then it covers all the studiousness areas as well as some of the psychosocial areas that could intervene with academic performance. And then a student gets a personalized individual report of this is the areas where you can improve, and these are the enablers or the referrals that you can go to improve what you are struggling with. And we are now in the process. This thermometer has been launched, but it is now in full swing, and we are asking students everywhere. Lecturers now know that they give this to students to do right at the beginning of a module. The interesting thing about this is that it is a self-scoring instrument and that the data is not shared with anyone else but the student. And only with the student's permission will they share it with someone. And this is very important because, students don't then feel like they have to lie about not attending class or whatever the case may be. But it is also important that we now say that when you're accessing any of the services, you need to have completed this student success thermometer, and you need to bring it along. You need to give us permission to look at the areas that you are struggling with and to see where we can intervene or refer or connect or do whatever we need to do to prevent this to escalate to another level. So this tool, we are now asking all our service departments, all our academic faculties, please ask your students to do this. We can't force them, but it is in their best interest to understand and to take agency to do this for themselves. So there are always ongoing mental health and wellness activities and events initiated by the entire Center for Student Support Services. Therapeutic Services is just one of the offices within the Center for Student Support Services. We also have academic coaching experts in the Office for Academic Success. We have an Office for Students with Disabilities. We have a Leadership Academy. So there are many different in-house referrals, and then plenty of gender equity unit, campus protection, doctors, you know it. And we are building the community in those layers and helping people to get to the right place as quickly as humanly possible. Then I heard my colleague from UP speak about the chatbot. We have a new DVC, relatively new DVC SDS, Prof. Matete Madiba, and with her backing and initiative, we now have the WISER online mental health and wellness chatbot as well as a preventative tool. So this chatbot is not a counseling tool, it is a psychoeducational tool that students and staff can access, but it is paid for, and therefore students and staff have the full service available. There are webinars on there, there are group sessions run. Yeah, that gives you the idea. So that is another big project that helps with some of the preventative work. Then we also do a lot of the psychological first aid and effective referral training to our student leadership, our house comps, our SRC, our student faculty board members, our staff members, especially in the learning and teaching sector of our staff members, because they're already allies in this process. We do have a dedicated UWC SADC 24/7 counseling helpline dedicated to our students, but we also use SADC for a triaging function to alert and escalate urgent referrals, because we do get to waiting lists, and you don't want a really urgent referral to be on a waiting list and you don't know that that is the case. So we use them very effectively for a triaging function. And then within our office, practically physically, we now have a containment room for the walk-in crisis with a phone and a couch where a student can actually be assisted to phone the helpline if there isn't a psychologist available right at that moment. And more often than not, the online counselors from SADC are able to calm down the situation, make a proper referral, and the students often come out of there contained, smiling, and ready to continue the process. So yeah, let me move on. Now we get to the part where we've been through all these layers and we need to respond at some stage. So at this point, your policies, procedures, processes, your effective and streamlined referral processes across campus becomes very, very important. People need to know, and they need to visually be reminded, this is what I do. And it's not necessarily just phoning CSSS. That is not the only option. It's probably not even always the relevant option. So we make sure that we try and communicate the reporting lines, the referral processes very, very clearly. Academic faculties have very clearly documented and communicated academic concessions for mental health and wellness, including cultural and spiritual needs. For each faculty have different concessions, and they communicate them very clearly to their students so that there is no misunderstanding when a student needs a leave of absence or an extended period away for some treatment. We use multiple counseling modalities besides the online and face-to-face. We use interventions that are short-term, like most of you, and innovative at times, like BWRT. Some of you will be familiar with it, some of you won't, but we find it very, very effective for a lot of student anxiety issues and responding. So we make sure our staff are trained in these modalities so that they can respond effectively, keep the interaction short, because we do need to have quite a bit of turnover still. We have now decided, after last year doing a bit of a pilot, that while students are on the waiting list, we will now run daily hour-long lunchtime support groups for students on the waiting list. So they are literally invited because we have their email addresses, they've requested counseling, they've been triaged by SADC, they've had basically an intake, and now they are waiting for an appointment. And so we invite them into a group space, and we are running groups Monday to Friday now, every lunchtime. It's an open group, so you don't have to start this week and come every week and whatever. So it's an open group. People can come in and out. Yes, you have to set ground rules every time. Yes, you have to do all of that. But many students in the pilot have commented on how that felt really safe. And some of them felt that they would remain in the group and they wouldn't require the individual. Others said, this is not for me, that's okay. But it has the added benefit that you have the eye of a trained psychologist and your intern that is co-facilitating these groups to actually spot where there is a crisis developing and to respond as quickly as possible.
Nay,
Do I
sorry.
need to finish?
Yeah, I think something's not working on the Zoom on my side. I've just tried to ask you to speed up a little bit, please. Can you
Okay,
finish
I
in a
am
minute?
literally, I'm just showing you the WISA and the, and what effective referral processes. This is pamphlets that then go out. This is the duty to report for female students 25 and under in terms of sexual assault. We all really know that that is a big issue. So we had a stakeholder meeting with the National Prosecuting Authority, our local police captains in the special units, a whole big seminar basically until we came up with an effective referral process, because every single person has the duty to report now. And then just explaining how the referral processes work, and thank you. That's it.
Thank you so much, Renee. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
So interesting, and I think I may put the comment there that I love the use of the word thermometer, wellness thermometer. It's awesome. Okay, so colleagues, we're going to actually go into breakaways now, into 2 breakaway rooms. We have leaders in both rooms who will guide you through what's going to happen. They're just a little bit more intimate, I think, in terms of discussion. And then we will come back. We are still scheduled we are still on track to finish at 1 o'clock, or in fact, a few minutes before that. So I do know it is a very busy time for everyone. I appreciate that. So we're going to go into breakout rooms now. Ashton?
Okay, breakaway rooms are open.
Okay, so colleagues, it looks like we are back from the breakout room. So I hope you had some really interesting discussions. I know we did it with our group. Which group would like to go first? Letitia, would your group like to go first? I think, and with our group, we didn't actually nominate someone to speak on behalf of the group. So I think when it comes to our turn, we'll just say, guys, can someone speak up? Letitia, are you okay to go first? Just to share
Yes, no one volunteered to, so it seems like that rests on me now. And I think in the interest of time, I'll do my best to provide feedback. I think some of the gaps, I think generally there's consensus that people were quite impressed by the quality of presentations and some of the innovations that's come through. Some of the concerns that people had were, how does one get buy-in from students? Are there particular marketing strategies that get students to buy into coming, to improve their help-seeking behavior for mental health, so that they don't have to be almost coerced through food, etc., to take care of themselves? So I think that was something that came up as a huge concern. Then the second one was the composition, the staff-student ratio, and how different that was across the sector, and the impact that has on the quality of services. Another gap was the lack of culture-based. There are lots of students facing ancestral calling and other spiritual challenges that affect their mental health and their academic achievement. And the question is, what are we doing to address that gap? And then also, to what extent do we understand who our students are, and how does this impact the relevance of our services? Are we changing the services to meet the changing needs and the diversity of students that come to our campuses? The digital platforms, I think people were quite intrigued by the digital platforms, and I think, again, it comes down to resource funding monies. And then I think another thing that came up is how many institutions actually have an integrated plan or strategy that addresses both student and staff wellness, not only student wellness, because that's a growing concern. And then the last one, or the last two, were how are institutions dealing with the increase in complex psychiatric presentations, especially in light of our public health sector really just being dysfunctional, and so we can't refer, or they just get sent back. And then lastly, how do campuses actually integrate monitoring and evaluation of the interventions? How are those done? So those were just some of the things that have come up. Cool. I will leave it at that, and I'm happy to answer. We can open the discussion after everyone's feedback. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Letitia. Thank you for stepping in. Let's go to the other breakout room. That was the one with Anne, myself, and others. Can someone just chat, please? Report back for the group. I don't want to do it as the Sadie person, so it would be good to have one of the institutional reps do it, please.
Okay, let me try from what. Oh, go ahead, Elmi. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Elmine. Thanks, Ishle. Second in command. Thank you.
Help. So I've made notes, but I know you will probably have another perspective. So, Letitia, your group, we're busy. I hope we can also give a lot. I think you've had a lot more input than us, but let's try. So, we talked about the impact of NSFAS on student mental health, and that we can probably really look more into that and use use research to campaign for our students and see how we can help them, because it has a huge impact on their mental health. Then we also talked about the structural separation that often happens in institutions between student success initiatives and mental health, and how the two is actually it's closely linked to each other, but that often mental health gets the blamed, or gets the work to do when the student success is not happening as it should, or the numbers doesn't look like it should. And then also we talked about the possible closer collaboration between basic education and higher education in terms of mental health initiatives. Siyaphumelela, you want to add to that?
I think you've covered it quite well. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Elmine. I think what I just want to add there, though, is that there was this great suggestion of having a cross-university study, actually.
Yes, thanks for that, too. Thanks.
Yeah, and this sort of what's a chicken and egg, situation, as students who have mental health, it will impact student success, which in turn then impacts mental health. How do we get around this and understand this, and hence, also perhaps the need for a broader, a national study, trying to pull together the empirical data on student mental health and how it actually impacts success. So we thought that actually was, quite a gap that still needs filling. I'm trying to think. I'm also looking at my notes quickly. I think I made some notes during the presentations. I think, yeah, apart from Letitia, your group talked about student buy-in and marketing. Yeah, I think that is that could be an issue. And, you know, I just want to share, colleagues, just a personal experience. And this was literally my own experience. So when I started university, oh gosh, 40 years ago, I was the only student from my high school at that particular university. And I absolutely hated, I would say, the first 3 months. And what I would actually describe it as is what our students are facing today in terms of the, you know, adapting to. I was attending a historically white university, if I can put it that way, compared to, you know, most of my fellow students from high school. There was that adaptation, that transition. You know, I think also coming from high school, I was always a high performing student. And then, of course, I came to university and I think I got my first supplementary exam and I failed mathematics and so on. So there was that academic pressure as well. And actually, it never occurred to me to go to student counseling. It wasn't in my mindset, you know. So I think that the marketing, you know, to the students we have today who don't actually have that support coming from high school and who may not even be aware is important. And then linking that also to the peers, you know, so it's important to have the peers then being that bridge in terms of pointing students who may need that help, that look, we do have counseling units and we do have that support. So yeah, just to add that element as well. But yeah, thank you, colleagues. I'm looking at the time. I think we've got, yeah, it's almost time, I think, just to go into the thanks and closure. I know it's been a long day, so I'm just going to, yeah, just hand over to my colleague Ibrahim just to talk about the way forward and just to give a vote of thanks.
Thank you very much, Koo. And let me thank all the colleagues, especially the presenters from the various institutions, for such wonderful presentations. I think the sharing was very rich. Actually, I never realized that there's so much that is going on in universities in terms of mental health initiatives. So the presentations were very insightful. I hope you all found them as such. It is really important, I think, to leverage on some of these sharing platforms and probably get some of the ideas that we can be able to implement at our institutions in order to improve whatever it is that we have in terms of supporting students and staff from a mental health point of view. We cannot talk of student success if we don't have holistic support for students. And I do think mental health is one of those key issues that really require attention. And actually, it's not a problem only here in South Africa. It is an international issue. And I think the extent to which we succeed in addressing some of these challenges will determine how successful we become in enhancing student success in our context. So yes, I really do appreciate the presentations that have been made and the richness therein. Once again, let me remind all presenters to share their slides with us. You can either send them to me. I've put my email address in the chat space, but also if you go to any of Koo's emails, you will find my email address there. So please do send us the slides so we can be able to share with the rest of the participants. Also, if it does look from the presentations that there are people who may have very useful resources which could be of benefit to other colleagues. So if you have such resources, they could be reading resources, they could be frameworks. Please, if you don't mind, share them with us so that we can also put them on the website for the benefit of the rest of the people in the network. So yes, we are hoping that these presentations are going to culminate in the development of the mental health short learning program. And that's a short course with 3 modules, which follows the 3 modules which follow the same theory of change. the knowing, the doing, the transformation. And the good thing is that the short learning programs will be on the Siyaphumelela website, and anyone who is interested in them can be able to access them. But you can also take them and put them on your institutional learning management system and use them in the way you like with other colleagues in your institution. So yes, we will be communicating to you regarding, as a work stream, regarding the development of the short learning program. Need I mention that Siyaphumelela budgeted to pay people for the development of these short learning programs. Some of you will be aware, I think we did circulate information early January about the training sessions that are running on the development of these short learning programs. With one cycle that was facilitated, that ran last year, the sessions are facilitated by Narila and Alan. And we have a rerun of the same sessions this year. Actually, the third one for the second cycle will be happening on the 13th of February. So I did share some information about this year's cycle. If you have time, please attend those sessions, and you will get to understand better what these short learning programs are and why we are developing them, and also how you can develop a good short learning program. So yes, on the 13th of February from 9 to 12 will be the third session. But if you missed out on the previous training sessions, you can actually go to the website, and all the training sessions are on the website. So you can be able to update yourself through those through the information on the website. You see how valuable it is to share, which is why we value sharing in Siyaphumelela. And there are other platforms or forums that you can use to share the good practice in your institution. With the Siyaphumelela conference, for instance, which happens in June, you can start thinking of a presentation that you can make at that conference based on what you're doing in your institution in the area of mental health. But we do also have regional networks where I think you can have an opportunity to share your good practice. So indeed, we do encourage people to share, to collaborate, so that we can continually improve ourselves in what we are doing in terms of supporting student success. So yes, I mean, thank you very much, everyone, presenters, as well as all the delegates for this wonderful session we had today. There is an evaluation that should take place. Let me quickly share the slides.
Ashton has put the link in the chat as well.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Ashton, for doing that. There is a QR code as well, and if you want to use that to access the evaluation, there it is. You are free to do that. So please take a few minutes to complete that survey. It's very important. It provides us with information that is valuable for improving the planning of such webinars in the future. So yes, thank you very much, and have a nice day. I think that's all I may have to say regarding this session.
Thank you. Bye to everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. We really appreciate you. Yeah, we know it's a busy time. And I think actually it would be nice to have another webinar, but this time we focus on staff. You know, of course, you know, the students are the bedrock of our institutions. We wouldn't have a university if it wasn't for students. But likewise, staff are important, and staff mental health as well. So maybe, yeah, in the next few months, we have a similar webinar, but this time we focus on our staff. But anyway, watch the space. Thanks, Ephraim. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
everyone.
Koo. Thanks, Koo. Thanks, Ephraim. Thanks, everyone.
We will
Thanks,
share the
everyone.
link and we will share
Bye.
with whatever presentation have been emailed to Ibrahim. We will share that with all the participants of this webinar. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon.